I'm gonna check it. Looks like we are officially live.
Good
Okay.
night.
I don't know. Okay. Yeah, I definitely missed my audio setup from before. Because I don't have that going right now. I don't got the the professional microphone, the pop screen, the M box, all that stuff. Made for some nice
Mhm.
audio quality. And I don't have any of the like noise canceling foam or anything like that, so it's
Yeah,
probably not
yeah.
nearly as good as it used to be.
I'm just sitting in my living room right now, so it's I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
I think when I get into the new apartment finally, it'll be a lot better. I'm just gonna tweet it out. That's the one downside with like live streams and stuff is you always have to kind of wait a little bit for people to roll in. Oh, but actually we have Mr. X here who's already here. He says, "Hi, howdy," or no,
Howdy,
howdy. I had to think about that one. But that's my thing. I'm always saying howdy. That's how I greet pretty much everyone and everything all the time. I don't know
yeah.
why.
Oh, I know why for me. It's Red Dead 2.
No, for me it was Toy Story. With the he did that whole like howdy 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 thing where he's like pretending to be Woody, and then I don't know. I just was just like doing the. I think it was high school or something. I was just like howdy howdy howdy, and then that's like it stuck. Like I did it so many times just like for a laugh, and then I just like started saying howdy. Like that just became my default way of saying hello. You know.
Yeah,
I swear I'm not from Texas. But yeah, no,
yeah.
we got huh?
No, you're good.
Us. Yeah, no, we got like a couple things we wanted to go over in this stream. Um, I wanted to touch on that whole like Scooby Doo AI fiasco with Gray Delisle, like because that was pretty messed up in my opinion. And then wanted to do like some talk about like pitches and what makes a good pitch. Uh, and like kind of like maybe both of us can like pitch our version of like a movie that we felt should have or could have been better, or like a movie or series or anything like that. And that's why I got like X2 on there because we were talking about that, and I was like, that is a movie that I feel like had all the potential in the world, and they just like squandered it immediately by just doing the
I
same thing as the
enjoy
last one.
X2.
So do I. Like, there's a lot to enjoy, but my biggest problem with it is that it's X1 again.
I'd say it's X1 again, but done better.
mm,
I think
maybe,
it's better than
maybe,
X1 personally.
maybe in some ways, but in other ways, definitely not. We can go over that a little more later on. There's not a whole lot to catch up on with Science Wizard Comics projects right now because once again, I'm still kind of behind on commissions, very behind. Hoping I can get a little bit of time to do that this weekend because I'm hoping to get a good chunk of time. Like I should have a good chunk of time tomorrow to like finish up my day job stuff, and then Sunday, I should have pretty much open to work on commission stuff but I also have to do some like renovation stuff next door at the apartment. So it's tricky, man. It's tricky. I've got so many things on the go at one time that it's very difficult to juggle them all.
Mhm.
But yeah, the other thing I wanted to do today is just kind of like showcase and go over like some of the comics and stuff that I've gotten recently because the mailbox has been filling up. I got some things in here. Let me just pull this a little bit so it's kind of visible. But Mr. X, living in the South for almost a decade will do that to you. Yeah, but I've never lived in the South. I don't do that. I live in Canada.
You live in the
frigid,
far north.
frigid, far north. Well, not far north Canada. I'm like Ontario,
I
you
mean,
know.
Canada in general is far north to
Yeah, I mean
U.S.
for anything American, yeah. Although there are some places in America that are farther north than I am, I believe. I think what's the place? Minnesota?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, Minnesota.
I think Minnesota
Minnesota
is
is
a little further
America's
north.
Canada, so
Pretty much. Like they that place looks like colder than like anything we get here in Ontario.
yeah.
But yeah, so I wanted to also go over some of the comics that we've gotten recently. And yeah, to anybody who is in here, to Mr. X as well, who's lovingly joined us. Thank you for joining us, sir. Check out our Patreon as well. That's patreon.com/Science Wizard Comics. If you can, if you ever want to, throw us a couple bones here and there to help out. It does help. The more people we can get on that, the faster we can start hiring people to do art for us so that we don't have to.
Yep.
uh,
And
uh,
if you're interested in Pineapple Pizza Man, you can. The first half of the book is available on Patreon right now, I believe, right?
yeah, the first half of the book is already available on Patreon. So if anybody's like dying to read Pineapple Pizza Man, you're just like, I gotta see what this is all about. Well, there you go. That's like half of the book is already ready to go. Um, let's see here. And then we've also got some other stuff that we're working on. But you know what I was saying earlier is kind of a lie actually, because we won't stop doing art ourselves on this stuff. We like doing it too much. We're just very slow, and we want to hire people who are faster to do, additional things on top of what we're
Yeah.
doing. So, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't ever plan on leaving the main book on Pineapple Pizza Man. Like I'm gonna be
Oh
there,
God,
but
no.
we'll,
Yeah.
yeah, but we
I
can,
want to. I want to see you evolve on that book. Yeah,
right,
that's my favorite part.
right, exactly. I want to see how it evolves too. But I also like we got all these side stories and ideas and world building things and things within the world of Pineapple Pizza that we want to expand upon. I've got other ideas outside of Pineapple Pizza Man, the Wicked Awesome team, um,
Hmm.
stuff for the Nexus, which is like our like multiversal kind of hub of intergalactic multiversal mercenaries. And so we've got a couple different titles like directly tied to that, and things that will kind of like maybe weave in and out of certain other Science Wizard projects as well. Um, like we got Gate Crashers, Help Becky Smash, Last Call, and then we've got like one shots and stuff for setting all that up. So it's like we've got like a ton of ideas. We've got a ton of stuff written down. We got a ton of stuff planned, but we need art. We need to hire artists for a lot of this stuff because we just don't have the time to do it ourselves. Like I'm slow enough just working on one project at a time as like a
Yeah.
full-time dad, full-time animator, you know, um, pretty much full-time commissioner as well, because like every moment that I'm not doing the dad or the work, I'm doing the commissions, and then when I'm not doing that, I'm doing the renovations, and when I'm not doing that, I'm like cooking and stuff for my family and all that. So it's
So
a busy,
time and a manpower hunt.
yeah, it's a busy life, but you know what, it's worth it. I mean, as difficult as it is to balance all this stuff, like I love it. I just can't wait to get back to actually working on the comics. Like that's where I want to be. I feel like my iPad has been collecting dust lately. I feel so bad. The poor guy. He needs my touch. Um. Oh, that's gonna get clipped and used against me. No, I'm just joking. So Mr. X used to visit Canada with his dad a few times, but hasn't been in over half his life now. I should specify I've been a Florida resident since like 2014. Oh wow, yeah. If you're at a nice warm place like Florida, I don't imagine you'd ever want to leave to go to Canada. And he
Mm.
says, the artist hunt. I may enjoy that experience when the time comes. Yeah, I know Mr. X is working on his own comics as well. Scud says hi, hello. in his own Scudly way.
Howdy,
All right,
howdy.
so yeah, hello. So yeah, let's get into things. I just want to go over some of the stuff that I've gotten recently. Um, let's see. I mean, just go over kind of like most of the stuff that I've gotten. So first up, I've got Niobe. Actually, let's go pow pow pow. Bam. Yeah, let's go there. First up is Niobe Origins, or sorry, Outbreak. Sorry, that's Larry Patrick Higgins. He does all the Niobe stuff. He's got some cards and stuff in the back here, some bookmarks and mini prints and stuff like that. So that's pretty sweet. I've been a big supporter of Larry's for quite a while. He's a good dude. Has a nice stream. Has me on often. So I always appreciate that. And yeah, that's Niobe. So he's been working on that. I just got Outbreak 2 as well. Haven't received it, but I backed it. And then this is his latest IP is Savage Sin. It's kind of Red Sonja Conan-esque universe that I guess he's working on building up. Obviously, I
like
can't
that.
do any.
I like the Bruce Timm style art on the back there.
Oh yeah, no, that I think that is. No, it's not. It's not Bruce Timm. Who's the other guy? He does a very Bruce Timm kind of style. I can't recall the name of the guy off the top of my head, but he's got him for a couple of covers from Niobe, I think, as well, or like stickers and print, like prints and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I really like that stuff. So Larry's, yeah, Mr. X is Larry's good people. Hard to catch live most times, but he's cool. He streams often though, so if you miss one stream, like you can pretty much catch him like the next day. He streams so often. Like I wish I had the time to stream as much as he did. You know,
Yeah.
definitely help with our metrics and stuff. Speaking of helping with our metrics, we've started hiring, like we've started doing shorts on the Science Wizard channel. So if you guys haven't checked out the shorts yet, definitely do. I think they're a lot of fun. I've been getting Animane to put them together. Shout out to Animane, pow 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 pow. That's how I shout out, with like finger guns and powing, because
Hmm.
that's what shouting sounds like.
Yeah. So you started blasting.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, like I saw him advertising like that he does shorts. I'm just like, what do you mean shorts? Like what is that? And then I asked him, and he's like, oh, like like YouTube shorts and stuff. I'm like, oh, sweet, that's actually a really good idea. Like we could probably use that to like, you know, get some more content flowing regularly. Because not everybody's gonna be, keen to watch like a big old hour to 3 hour live stream. Like they just want to see like snippets of like the good stuff that comes out of there, because
It could be a
live
lot.
streams, yeah, live streams can be a lot. There's a lot of humming and hawing sometimes, and it can be a little bit chaotic and all over the place. So you get these shorts, you can kind of condense fun little moments into the shorts, and helps with I guess metrics. I'm not really sure, like but yeah, he's good people. It's a reasonable price. I really like the shorts that he's done for us so far. He's done two, and yeah, hopefully we can get him to do more soon. Maybe on this one, depending on how good this stream is, and how many
Are we making any
moments.
good points?
Yeah. So next one I got to show is Vicky Sticks, Dead Princess Vicky Sticks. This was a fella that was on Larry's stream, and yeah, he was doing a crowdfunding campaign. Looked pretty decent, so I decided to check it out. I haven't had a chance to read any of this stuff, unfortunately, but this was also another one from that same guy. One of his previous campaigns, I guess, that he had as an extra on Kickstarter there, because you can do those now, which I really like that feature. So, and I think Indiegogo has a similar thing as well. So that's Dragonstorm, Vicky Sticks. That's all been good. Of course, I got Tomorrow Girl. versus Common America. Is it versus Common? Yeah, it is versus. It's versus, but the versus is like super super tiny. Like you can
Really
barely see it.
tiny. I like their Common America when they usually do crossovers. They have like the giant X. It's very Japanese.
Yeah, yeah. I recreated that X exactly as they have. Like I even found like the exact same textures that they used.
Mm-hmm.
I did some sleuthing when I was doing my Common America Black Hops fan art because I did this one where
The Cayman,
the
yeah.
Cayman. I did Cayman America, so I had to like recreate their logos and stuff like, and I wanted to do it as close as possible. And I actually managed to find like the exact textures that they used for the Black Hops logo and for the X, I think as well. Just through Google search, which was
Nice.
fun. Um, yeah. So, also shout out to Iconic Comics, Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini on their Common America Volume 8 and Volume Omnibus Volume 2. That just came out digitally. Still waiting on it physically, but yeah, I know people are going
I'm
to
waiting
be.
to read that.
I've been seeing spoilers online. It's the one downside to Common America doing so damn well is that they've amassed such a big fan base that it's really difficult to avoid spoilers.
Yep, and
For,
I don't want to mute those words or anything because I still want to hear about it.
Right, exactly. Like I want to be a part of that discussion, but at the same time, it's like I'm one of those guys that likes to wait until I get the physical release first before I read it. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
read the digitals, but often I do end up reading the digitals because I'm worried about destroying the books because they're like hardcover, and I'm just like I always get nervous about hardcovers. The soft covers kind of are I don't know. I feel less worried about wrecking soft covers than hard covers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've had more bad luck with soft covers though, from just like the glue, like the just pages coming unglued and all that. I've never had an issue with hardcovers so
Yeah.
far.
Well, I've had one issue with one of the Common America hardcovers, but that was due entirely to my own impatience because it was winter when it came and
Mm,
it was cold and I'd like brought it in, unpackaged it right away and like immediately opened it up and like the glue freezes, right? And
yeah.
so it freezes, it gets brittle and it kind of like broke a little bit of the glue. That was dumb on my part. I should have been
Did
like,
any
oh yeah, it's Canada. I probably shouldn't do this.
did any pages come out or anything? Like,
What's that?
did any like the pages like come out or anything like that? Or
I don't think there was too much damage, like that it's gonna like fall apart or anything like that. Like it's still together, but like I felt something pop, and I was just like, oh, I better keep that closed until it warms up a little bit, you know.
Oh,
Uh,
that's fairly normal with most hardcovers. Just like the glue cracking on your first open. Like,
yeah, maybe I
it
don't
was.
know. It made me nervous. I ended up like just putting it away and reading it digitally because of that.
Mm,
Uh, because I always got the digitals. I always make sure I got them on my iPad, especially good for traveling and for art reference as well, because I love Tim Lim's art. And I've got a couple of Common America based commissions in the queue as well. So I'll pause the showcase for a moment and get back to Mr. X and showcase some of him because he is active in the chat. And he says, as for the book, he's talking, of course, about his own indie comic that he's working on. He says, the one shot is done, but for like main volumes, yeah, that hunt is going to be interesting. Also, praying for a promotion to pour a bit more money towards that. So, best of luck on that. I know it can be difficult to get promotions, especially when you're an unknown and you're not buddy buddy with the big hot shot circles. But hey, we're all just hoping to find our audience. That's my goal. I'm hoping to find the people who see Pineapple Pizza Man and think like this looks interesting, or
that is
or
a
this looks
beautiful hero.
yeah this looks like it could be a good time. And he is correct. Anime News, very good people. I have always liked Anime, and he's always been super nice. So that's the thing.
Mhm.
If you're nice to me, I'm gonna like you. that's really just how it is. Like, it's very difficult to get me to like dislike someone, because as long as you're just nice, we're pretty much aces, you know.
Yeah.
And yet there are still some people that manage. So he says, yeah, I've been rereading it to prep for massive deep dive on Sunday. I already warned folks that due to what's in Volume 8, it's pretty hard not to spoil. Yeah, so I've been hearing. And for whatever reason, people seem to like listening to me ramble. So far, so good. We'll have to get you actually on the show sometime. That'll be nice. It's like, oh, I meant a promotion in my day job, but IP promotion is also good. Oh, okay, well, that was my mistake. All right, well, getting back to the promotion of the indie comics in general, one that I'm very happy to have finally gotten is Deathsworn, right?
Still waiting on mine.
Book one by Carl O'Rowe. I'm sorry, like I spaced on his name for a second there, but I shouldn't, because I've known this guy for a while. He's been, you know, in the indie circuit for quite a while, and I've always been a big supporter of his. I got the first 2 issues of Deathsworn before he started this, you know, this whole kind of remake of them, you know, to include the 3rd issue as one whole volume. It looks great. I'm super excited to read it and you know, reacquaint myself with Deathsworn, because like I can't say enough good things about Carl O'Rowe. I think he's a great guy, and I think his art is absolutely top of the line. You know, we got him to do the Wampool fan, like the oneification poster. Hey Zeta, good to see you. And you know, he's always been cool with us. I've never had a problem with Carl. He's always been like super nice, super generous. He's a funny guy. He's super talented. I can't say enough nice things about him. And I just want to say those nice things about him now, in particularly, because like for the longest time, he's been getting a lot of flack about being late on Deathsworn. Being late sucks. I don't like being late. I know people who back books don't like receiving things late, but you know, it happens sometimes, and especially when you're like a one-man show like Carl is, like, and you look at the absolute, like, bafflingly good quality of the final product. You know, it's really hard to fault him for that. You know, like I'm not putting out quality nearly as good as him. I mean, I'm trying to do my absolute best, but my absolute best is not, yeah, as good as Carl's absolute best. So it's like, I understand, man. Like, it takes time. And I'm just glad that I didn't do a campaign before I started the art, because, like, you know, like anything with life, it can be very difficult to, you know, stick to those kinds of promises when you have this as a side gig, when this is like not your main job. If I could work on this every single day, you know, 8 hours a day or more, you know, I would. And if I could do that, I would absolutely be able to stick to some sort of release schedule, because at some point I would get a, like, probably even after the first issue, I would get a good idea of how quickly I'm able to, you know, do this art, to do paneling, to do, you know, layouts, to do colors, to do inks, to do lettering and optimization for printing and all that stuff. But we're not there yet, you know? I can't do this full time. And yeah, I can barely even do it part time at the moment, just because of like how much my schedule has filled up with other stuff. So, you know, I just wanted to, you know, let Carl know that I get it, I understand. And I think that people should cut him a little bit of slack, because he's delivering a product that is, you know, above par. It's not, you know, on par with like the mainstream. It is well above par. Like this is the cream of the crop, you know? Like, so it's like we have this saying in the animation industry. There's the triangle of animation. It's, you can only pick two sides, two corners of the triangle. You can either pick uh fast, cheap, or good. So you can get it fast and good, right? But it's not going to be cheap. or you can get it cheap and good, but it's not going to be fast, right? Like you can only pick two, and that I think that's true for most, you know, most like creative ventures. You know, like
Yeah.
it really is like you can only pick two because there are very, very few. I mean, these are like the unicorn cases where you're going to get something that's going to be both fast, cheap, and good, right? Um, so Zeta, the creator, I said hi when you first came in there, but I was in the middle of a bit of a rant there, so I just wanted to say hi again. Says he looks like I found a new channel to sub. I hope you're talking about our channel. So anyway, back to the showcase. So that was Deathsworn, and then we've got Black Tide Rising. This one I got a little while back, but it's got a great cover there. I believe that's Dave Dorman. Dorman. Dave Dorman. Yeah, he does like the hand painted covers. Expensive, but you know, well worth it. He's got a.
That's cool.
It's very eye catching. And that's Brett R. Smith, another friend of the channel. And then let's go right there. And then we've got Terror in the Trenches by Vaughn. Yeah, no, I really liked the look of this. I love the artist that he's got for this. Really, really great artist. It's an interesting idea because this is actually a character that's in the public domain. So he dug into the public domain and brought something out of there and modernized and revitalized it. So that's pretty interesting. Looking forward to reading that. I still haven't read his Monster MD book either, unfortunately. I got to dig that up out of there somewhere. It's tough to read things, especially when you got so much to read, man. But yeah, I don't know. Looks good. We'll see. Well, I'm looking forward to reading it. And then we've got another one here. We got Robert, Volume 1. There we go. The Bounty. And I think I'm going to have to do something about flattening this or something, because, I don't know, maybe it's too moist down here. I don't think it's good for the comics. I'm noticing a little bit of, like, warbling in some of these, particularly with Deathsworn and Robert. Although these are the newest ones, so maybe it's just that they're kind of like that already. I don't know. But, yeah, Boogiebot. Boogiebot. We've had him on the show once or twice. And he's finally come through on his crowdfunded comic, Robert, and it's in-house. It's finally here. So yeah, that's all the haul that I've gotten so far for the last little while. Basically for this year. So yeah, just wanted to showcase some of that. So, you know, keep an eye out for those creators. I kind of wish they had like their Twitter in the back there, or if I looked it up ahead of time so I could just like shout out their Twitters and make sure everybody can follow them. But chances are you guys probably already do. I'm pretty sure you guys are well versed in the indie comics circles. So Zeta says, comics are a real struggle, man. I love drawing and comics, but doing pages, especially in rapid succession, burns me out, especially with my schedule. Man, don't I know it. All right, so is there anything you wanted to touch on, Theron?
Not on like crowdfunding comics that I've gotten recently, just because I haven't gotten any recently.
Yeah, well, whenever I put out the YouTube links and stuff on Twitter, I also, you know, always ask people to drop any links for current or upcoming campaigns that they got going. Unfortunately, we didn't get any this time, but it was also a bit of an impromptu stream. We weren't really planning it out super thoroughly. We just kind of were just
There was a few hiccups in our plan.
Yeah,
We'll
the
say
largest of which was probably me thinking that today was Saturday and not realizing that it was still Friday. So
Yeah.
that was my fault. That was my fault. We had some other plans we were gonna do. Yeah. So one of the plans that we were gonna do for tonight initially, which was actually for tomorrow, was we were going to review the indie comic Axe Wielder John. Was that it? Axe Wielder
Yes.
John? Yeah,
Yes.
from Nick Patara. And it's an interesting journey to reviewing this indie comic because I was familiar with Nick Patara's work and not in a good way and not in a good light. Okay, so basically, I had uh this comic series. I bought the first 3 volumes for, and called the Manhattan Projects, and it was kind of about like all those people that were involved with the Manhattan Project in real life, but like a fictionalized sort of sci-fi alternate history version of like Einstein and Oppenheimer and all them characters. And I thought that sounded like an interesting concept, and like the covers looked nice. They were very minimalistic, I'll say. Probably because the interiors was Nick Patara, and I don't like his art. I have never liked his art. I've always found it to be like hideously ugly, uh, and also like with a lot of problems with like structure and anatomy. And I was just like, we had this whole thread going on Twitter where people were talking about like their least favorite artists, and I was just like,
Yep.
and I brought that guy up because I was just like, oh my god, I hate his art. Like every time I look at it, I want to vomit. It's just so ugly. And I was just like, I don't know. I got myself into like I was just like, oh, I just want to dunk on his art so bad. And I was like, oh, let's find out what he's been doing recently, like what projects he's been on recently. And then like, turns out he was like right in the middle of promoting this indie comic that he's done called Axe Wielder John, and and then I contacted him. I don't remember if it was through email or Twitter. I don't remember if it was how exactly I contacted him, but like he said somewhere on Twitter where he was like, oh, like, we're giving away digital copies to anybody who wants to review them. And I was just like, I don't know. I was feeling mean and spiteful because I just hated his art so much. And I was just like, oh, hey, I'd love to review your comic for you because I'd love, and and then I kind of just like came out of it because he was super nice. And I was just like, oh, now I can't dunk on you. I can't do it. I just can't do it. I can't do this just to dunk on his art. I don't like his art, okay?
Hmm.
But I'm gonna review it honestly. I'm gonna just he was nice. I can't dunk on him because he was nice. So I'm gonna be nice back. That's just how it is. He's nice. I'm gonna be nice, and I'm gonna give him an honest review of Axe Wielder John. And I'm gonna try to be gentle on the art side of the critique. Focus a little more on the story. So we're gonna do that with one of our next streams. We're gonna do an IndieSphere red line. So I'll be very thorough with the critique. So it's gonna take like a little bit of doing some notes and setup and stuff. And Theron's gonna join me on that one. So we can get
It's
a
probably
couple
gonna be a
different.
longer. It's probably
A
gonna be a
what?
longer
It's
stream
gonna
too.
it's gonna be a longer stream, I think.
Yeah.
So one of the things we got to do, we got to read through it. We got to both make our notes. We got to kind of come up with like points that we want to bring up, things that we don't want to bring up because we don't want to give like spoilers, because he did say that there was something in there that he didn't want spoiled. He says it's obvious, so hopefully it's obvious enough that we get it right and we don't
Hmm.
spoil what he doesn't want spoiled. And yeah, so look forward to that. It's going to be a very thorough review of Axe Wielder John by Nick Patara, who is a nice guy, as it turns out. So it's just I don't like his arts. Like I hated his art so much, so I wanted to hate him. But then he was
Yeah.
like super duper nice and super generous, and I was just like, damn it, I can't hate him.
Yeah. That's probably how I would react if I interacted with what's his name, Michael Janin. I hate his art. I dropped the newest Batman run because he was like part of like one issue of it. I just
Yeah.
like his stuff just looks like traced 3D models. I just can't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know what? Like, a little bit of niceness goes a long way, man. Like you're nice to someone and it's extremely disarming. Like if you're nice to me, like I'm just gonna be like, well, shit. Like I can't be I can't be petty. I can't be smarmy. I can't be mean. I can't be I can't like be hateful.
Yeah, because then you just look like an asshole for no
I
reason.
I just look like an asshole. It's just like and it's like it. I think those moments are good. I think those moments are important. They're a point of clarity, a point of
Oh yeah,
self-reflection,
it's a
because
good
like
reality check.
it is a good reality check because like you see these people, they're out there making media, they're making shows and whatnot and comics and art and all kinds of things and some of it's going to be for some people, some of it's going to be for other people. Some people are going to love it, some people like myself are going to hate it. But at the end of the day, you know, how you react to people and how you come across as a creator, it does make an impact because like if I had approached Nick Batara and he was a complete dick, my reaction would probably just be like, all right, I'm completely justified in like just trashing this thing. But no, he was super nice, and so I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna give this guy an honest review, and hopefully it's you know hopefully he appreciates it, and hopefully he realizes that like even though I don't like the art, I'm gonna give it all like an honest read through, an honest critique, an honest review, and yeah, and let him know that yeah, I'm doing this because I like you. I don't like your art, but I like you. So
I
I
just
want
I
you.
just hope it's good because it's almost 200 pages. And I don't want to waste my time.
Mhm.
Like if
Yeah.
it's bad, I might tap out. Like if I
Although
don't,
although looking through it like super quick, I did kind of notice that he does like a lot of timing pauses, if you know what I mean. Like he'll hold on a frame, or like he'll have like the same image but like a close up of it, and then the same image but a close up of it. And so like
yeah,
one whole page could be like three panels that are like super quick. Like it's there's no dialogue. It's just like boom, 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 close up, and it's just
yeah,
like
it's a stylistic choice.
very cinematic in its
Hmm.
presentation. So I think that will make it a quicker read as well, even though it is 176 pages.
Yeah,
Mr. X says he's got to build that pre-launch at some point. Let's just say it's a very small world. I imagine he's talking about his comic there as well. But he's right, though. We do got to build a pre-launch page for Pineapple Pizza Man. But I'm not going to do that until the whole book is finished, until all the principal art is done, and all we have left to do at that point is just promotional art, um uh
print files, stuff like that.
yeah, like bios, thank you pages, like all the finishing touches and whatnot, putting together like fan art pages and whatnot, because we're definitely going to put fan art pages into the Kickstarter, the Indiegogo versions. um yeah, like we had said before as well. There's going to be um there's going to be fan art pages in there. There's also, shoot, where was I going with this? I already said the fan art pages. I had something else I was gonna say. I hate when that happens.
Letters page, the backup.
Yeah, there's gonna be a letters page. Um, but there was something else I wanted to touch on. Oh well, I don't know. I'm sure it'll come back to me at some point later on. But anyway, I'll get back to the regular view so we can see Theron in our beautiful art slideshow here. Um, Yeah, but yeah, like I don't want to do a pre-launch page for Indiegogo or Kickstarter until we're basically like ready to go, because then we can like really focus on just getting that out there, getting people notified of it, getting people signed up, because we do have sign up bonuses as well. Like I'm the type that likes to give bonuses for people who come early. So,
Hmm.
you know, the earliest you can be is to, get on the pre-launch, right? Sign up to the pre-launch. That'll give us like some of your information, like your email, and it's just like, oh, okay. So then if that email, purchases the book, then we're just like, okay, they were part of the pre-launch. They get this extra, little thing, which is going to be a bonus trading card, which is of the principal villain of the first issue, Baby in a Mech Suit. So, and that was Brian Shearer, I believe, that did the art for that. So he's like a big mecha guy. Like he did,
There's a lot of Transformers art, doesn't he?
yeah, he does a lot of Transformers art, and he did this indie comic. He did a couple issues or a couple volumes of this indie comic, Gunship Battle Punch or Gun Gunboat Battle Gun Punch Battleship, something like that. Oh, I'm really sorry, Brian, if I'm getting that wrong. I know I'm probably getting it wrong. Gunship. I think it was Gunship Battle Punch. Battleship Gun Punch. Shit.
Gunship Thunder Punch.
Gunship Thunder Punch. Okay, that was it. Jeez, I'm terrible at that. Uh, so yeah, I loved his work with the mechas and stuff, and so I wanted to get him on the Baby in a Mech Suit pre-launch card. So yeah, we're gonna have cards and stuff, and we're gonna do the poker chips again, but this time we're gonna have 3 sets of poker chip. Um, there's gonna be a special poker chip that only the no, there's gonna be, yeah, there's gonna be 3. It's gonna be like the first 25, the first 50, and then the first 100 backers. So if you're within the first, 25 backers, you'll get 3 poker chips. If you're within the first 50, you'll get 2 poker chips. If you're within the first 100, you'll get 1 poker chip. Because I love that. I love that the sooner you back, the more stuff. Like you get more little fun bonuses. And I love the poker chips. I love the feel of them. I love the weight of them. I don't give a shit about poker. I've only played poker one time and I hated it. But I
Same.
love the poker chips. There's something about them. The weight of
They have,
them.
they have good hand feels.
They do have good hand feel. When we did the poker chips for Wampool, I was just like, because I got the poker chip from the Black Mamba, Blue Mamba. Shit, I'm blanking on some of the titles of these books. I think it was Blue Mamba.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, and they did like a poker chip with it, and I've never even felt a poker chip before, but I picked it up and I was just like, oh my god, I love this thing. It's great. It had like the image on the front, image on the back. It had that like weight to it, that like it just has this perfect feel to it. It just feels good in your hands. And then
Hmm.
the click it makes when you like drop it against other poker chips and stuff. I don't know what it is about it. Like it just feels good, man.
Everything
And
about it
so
satisfying.
yeah, and so we did that with the Wampool thing, where we had the first 25 get a Robbie Wampool poker chip, and then the first 100 get a Wampool poker chip. So this time we're going to do 3. We're going to have, 25, 50, and 100. And that's because I really liked the poker chip, and I want people to have more opportunity to get more poker chips, and I want more poker chips. It's largely about me and what I want. They're just, I don't know. I want a collection now. I want to
It's
start doing
about
the.
us. It's about us, but they also benefit, so it's fine.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But after I got that first poker chip, I just was like, I want to start a collection. I'm just like, I'm gonna do Science Wizard poker chips. That's just gonna be a thing that we do now. And it's something that doesn't come out of like the funds for the books. That's something that I contribute. So that's my personal gift to our backers. So
Hmm.
and they're not like crazy expensive or anything like that, but I just think it's just like a fun, nice little extra. So yeah, and then we're gonna have, of course, have like like the very first backer is going to get something as well on top of the 3 poker chips, a little special gift. Haven't decided what that is yet, but yeah, like I like doing that stuff. So um, yeah, yeah. Zeta was just saying, I was just about to suggest putting in fan art pages. I love fan art. I love seeing fan art. I love putting it in the books. I love it when books have fan art because I just love to see that enthusiasm, for
Yeah,
the characters, that enthusiasm for the creators, that like
the community participation.
community participation. Exactly. I mean, we had that in spades with Wanpool. We had such a good community reaction and like this feeling of like coming together to help make it a success. And it was so interactive too. Like we had like the special commissions that I was doing for the wanifications, and
Hmm.
that was like all the proceeds from that. Like I wasn't taking those. Like I was taking those commissions and then taking the money from the commissions and putting them right into the campaign. So although that was like a special campaign commission just to help further the campaign. And every time we got to the cost of one of the books, I did like a raffle on the Science Wizard Twitter page to give away a copy of the book. So it's like it wasn't just like money going in to like boost the campaign numbers. It was money going in to you know work towards getting more books to more people, right? So we wanted to make sure that people were able to get books that maybe didn't have the money to be able to afford it or something like that, or it's like it was just like interested, but like they just like shucks, now's not a good time. So we had raffles every time we hit like the $15 or $20 that it would cost to back the campaign and get a book. Then we would put that money in, back the campaign, and then we would take that book and raffle it to you know people on Twitter that wanted the book. And I thought that was a really great way to do it too, because once again it was interactive. Um, you know, every time we had one of those commissions, that just gave us more quantifications that we could, use as like, um, community involvement, like community driven marketing for the campaign. So yeah, I want to do something like that again with Pineapple Pizza Man when we're ready to go with that, but it's like I'm not sure exactly what to do. Like the quantification stuff was so simple of an idea because OnePool had like this very stark and like very unique and iconic color palette with the two-tone pink, like the Mexican kind of infusion to that sort of like Deadpool parody look. And it was easy to like take that and just like, okay, well, we'll take your avatar or whatever and we'll turn it into like a one poolified version, so you become kind of like a one pool-esque character. uh and that was great, but it's like how to do that with Pineapple Pizza Man, because he's
Yeah,
not in a costume. he that's just
he
him.
is. Yeah,
He's buck ass naked, letting it all hang out
with gloves and boots.
with the
That's
gloves
the
and
costume.
boots. Maybe we'll take your profile and we'll take all your clothes off and give you gloves and boots instead. That doesn't work the same.
Yeah, maybe for SWC After Dark post, we'll do that.
Yeah, no, I don't think people would go for that. But I don't know. We could probably think of something at some point. Um, hell, having a fan art contest could lead to more exposure for the comics as well. That is something I have been considering as well. Like actually doing a like because we got quite a few covers that we're gonna do for the book. Um, but I was thinking maybe one of the things that we could do is do like a like what they do with ISOM, right? Where they did like a fan cover, and it was like a fan art contest to get the cover position. and then they would be like paid for the cover and stuff, and they would get like a comped version of the book with their cover on it. And I don't know, maybe we could do something like that. What do you think, Theron?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, yeah, Zeta, I like that. I like that. That
Yeah.
is a good idea. But we did do a fan art and character design competition before when we had first kind of pitched Pineapple Pizza Man, like
Yeah, this was
back
back
when.
in 2019, something like that, I want to say.
Yeah, I think it was like 2019 or even 2018. I don't know. But like we had just kind of gotten together on Pineapple Pizza Man. We had just started working on the story even.
Hmm.
Like I don't think we didn't even have like the script finished yet. And we had held this contest. We were for some money and a comped version of the book, and also of issue 2, which won't be for a while, and also that your character would that you designed that we chose as the winner would make it into that second issue as well. Um, so like we did do that before. It was like a really long time ago, unfortunately. But like we haven't forgotten. The winner's still gonna get all that stuff when all this stuff is done. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I think my hesitation for doing another fan art contest is because the first fan art contest was like the prize is very much like contingent on the first issue being finished. Um, and so it's like I don't want to do another one really until the first issue is finished and we can actually like guarantee that that first fan art contest is going to be paid out in full, right?
Yeah.
Because like it's not really paid out in full like fully until like the second issue, but like at the very least I want to get them the first issue, you know, and maybe something with their character in that, like maybe like a print or something, a pinup, I don't know. But yeah, it's like I don't want to do another one until we could fully fulfill the original uh Pineapple Pizza Man fan art contest. So, but I want to do it. I want
Yeah,
to, but it's like
those
my
contests were always fun. Like, I had a good time with that.
mhm. Like morality is the one that's holding me back from doing something like that.
Hmm.
Um, Also, an idea to promote Pineapple Pizza Man. Instead of going the Wampool route, give him a gimmick that people can draw him in. Draw him in. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Is that are you saying something kind of like one of those art trends, like those meme kind of art trends where they're just like draw your character like this, or oh you know what's one thing you could do is we could have like a template sort of idea where it's like give us a picture of your character and then we'll add Pineapple Pizza Man into it somehow, and we could have some fun with like how we add him into that drawing of your OC or like your original character, something like that. Uh, Zeta elaborates. He says, for instance, have a person eating a pineapple less pizza while he asks, where are the pineapples? Similar to Kool-Aid Man. Okay, I see. I see. So you're thinking more of like this kind of like meme kind of thing where it's like, oh, like take you and like have like Pineapple Pizza Man harassing you about pineapple on pizza, which kind of goes with sort of his conceptual origin. But
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of like the one that I came up with based on your initial suggestion, where I was trying to figure out what exactly you meant, where it's like give us a picture of your OC and we'll add Pineapple Pizza Man into the drawing. That could be fun. That could be a lot of fun. And it's that is kind of similar, at least in spirit, to like what we were doing with the quantifications, because it does have that element of interactivity to it, and that's what's important to me, is that interaction, between
Yeah.
the customer slash fan or
It could be
backer.
draw your OC interacting with Pineapple Pizza Man. Uh, if that's or is that what you're saying? Or
Well, basically, like, say that you have a picture of your original character, right? And then you send it to me, and you say like, I want to get one of your pineapple-fication commissions, right? The commission that we would be doing for a reduced price only during the campaign, right? And then I would take that exact picture, and then I would add Pineapple Pizza Man into that as the commission,
gotcha.
right?
Okay.
You know, and they'd be interacting in one way or the other, and it could be like some and you never know exactly what it's going to be. Like it'll surprise you each time, kind of like you know, kind of like a caricature artist, where it's like you just sit there and you pose, and they do this wild and crazy caricature, and you have no idea how crazy, you know, it's going to be until he turns it around and you see it for the first time. So it could be something kind of like that.
Gotcha.
It's good. Thank you, Zeta. We're brainstorming. We're doing it. All right. So yeah, I wanted to go. Let's get into the pitch side of things. Let's get into the pitch discussion. I want to ask you, Theron. I kind of wish we had a larger panel for this, because I do like to get a larger when we're actually talking about specific topics. I do like to get a larger, you know, variety of opinions on it. Uh,
Yeah.
but I want to ask you, Theron, what to you makes a good pitch? Like, what in a pitch makes you say, yeah, I want to buy that comic, or I want to watch that movie?
I mean, just has to get me interested in your idea. I mean, there's never like a specific thing. Like there just has to be, and say if it's like a horror genre, like there has to be like an interesting hook to it. It can't just be just another horror story.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Okay,
Like, I've never really put it into words, I guess.
fair enough. Okay, but surely you've seen pitches that turned you off of a project, right? Like, what are some of the things that you see in pitches that make you say, like, no, I'm going to pass on this?
There was, it's not a comic book, but it was a movie.
Oh, it could be comics, movies, like any kind of media.
Or it was a Twitter post with a trailer, and like there was like a pitch on it. It was a zombie movie, and it's like Dawn of the Dead meets 28 Days Later, where it's just two other zombie movies. Like you're saying, your zombie movie is like two other zombie movies.
Yeah, no, I
It's
get
like
that.
I'm not like I want to. No.
Like, the whole X meets Y thing.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
that
I
one.
love that, like, Mark Pellegrini and Tim Lim, like, said that about that, because that's something that's always bothered me about a lot of pitches that I see
Well, that's
is
because X meets Y isn't for customers; it's for like studio heads.
yeah,
It's for the
yeah,
money men
but
to get interested in the project. It's not for us to hear. Like it shouldn't be.
the thing that I don't like about it is that it immediately, like, when you do the whole X meets Y thing, it immediately takes away from whatever it is that you're pitching. And
Yeah.
instead it diverts their attention to whatever you're likening it to. So they're not thinking about what's original in your film or comic or whatever. They're not thinking about, like, oh, like, you know, what's the hook here, what's the interesting thing, what's the unique aspect of this that's going to make people want to come back for more. They're thinking like, oh, I'm just, all I hear now is just those two things that you have mashed together, and my nostalgia for them, or my
Yeah.
perceived nostalgia that other people will have for said properties, you know, that you are likening yours to. That's the
Yeah.
problem I always have with it. Like, it immediately turns me off of a project when I see, like, oh, it's like this thing meets that thing. I'm just like, okay, but now I'm not thinking about your thing. Now I'm thinking about those two things. Like,
Yeah.
you just derailed your whole pitch by pitching me these two things instead of your thing, you know?
Yeah, like there's those pitches where it's like, if you like Masters of the Universe and all this other stuff, like just say it's reminiscent of like a nostalgic 80s sci-fi, like it has that vibe. Like you don't have to like name drop specific things. You can give
No.
like the tone you're looking for.
Right. You could say like, you know, this is like a sort of classic 80s sci-fi action thriller, right? Talk about the genre and say like, okay, let's set it in this genre, and people will be like, okay, like I understand what sort of things that genre entails. That certainly gives me an
Yeah.
idea of the tone,
That
but it
way, you're
doesn't.
giving an umbrella. You're not pinpointing a specific thing that's gonna distract your audience.
Yeah. So that's the thing that always bothered me about a lot of the pitches that I see, and I see a lot of those pitches these days. Like, you know, no matter how much we rail against them, no matter how much the iconic team rails against them, people still are like dead set on this X meets Y thing. And even if your thing is very much inspired by a mashing up of these two elements, like, you know, there's like you have to figure out like how you're going to pitch this to people where they're going to think like, oh, this is its own thing, because
Yeah, you
if you're
have to
setting,
separate it.
you're essentially setting them up for failure. Really, you're setting yourself up for failure, because all they're going to be thinking about is those two things that you're
Yep.
mashing up, and they're going to be looking for ways that they're mashed up while they're reading it, you know. And it's not going to, and if it becomes too obvious that it's those two things being mashed up, it's going to take people out of it, I think. You know,
Yeah.
like uh even if you don't say what it is that you're mashing up to kind of create your creation, like you can still, like, if the people that you're pitching this to are familiar with those things, and your thing is too similar to either one of those things or both of those things, and they piece together the X meets Y themselves, that's even worse. Because
Hmm.
then it's like, oh, well, I know, like, this just seems
It's
like a
no longer
ripoff.
inspired by. It's no longer inspired by. It feels like a ripoff at that point, especially since you just
Exactly.
name dropped those two things.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and if you, and that's disappointing. Like, there was a person in college, like, when I was in animation, you know, we had this whole thing where we had to create a story that are that because we were doing character design, and you know, we had to kind of like build a story around the character design, you know, to kind of like pitch the character. It was sort of like a practice in doing character design within an animation studio setting, right?
Uh,
So, you know, we had to have a story. We had to be like, oh, here's my pitch for this character and how they relate to their story and blah blah blah. And then, you know, you had the different steps through the process where it's like you do your initial sketches and some brainstorming and stuff. Then you go back and forth with the character design teacher, who kind of acts sort of like as the uh, uh, you know, design director or showrunner essentially. And they're kind of like, okay, I like this, don't like that, this that. Here's something you can do, like, you know, gives you little ideas, brainstorming advice, points you in the direction that they think is works for the idea and the character. And there was this one person who, you know, and we kind of were encouraged to like talk to each other and pitch to each other, and like get good at pitching our character and our story, you know, so that when we brought it to the teacher, like it would be, you know, streamlined or perfected essentially. So it was like ready to be seen, and
yeah, somewhat professional.
yeah, exactly. Like you were ready for that elevator pitch, and it was going to be like tight and concise and like, you know, get it in there. Um, and so, you know, we would do this around the class, and there was one guy, and he had this thing that was basically like a mashup of Warhammer 40,000 and Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it was so obvious. Like he
Hmm.
basically, you know, in his pitch when he was like pitching it to me, and like I basically said like, okay, so this is basically just like Warhammer, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, set in a Warhammer 40K style universe. He's like, no, no,
No, it's,
and then
it's not that.
yeah, and he never talked to me again. Yeah, artists can be very sensitive. Yeah, they don't like it
and
when you
you know he was
critique.
super proud of that too.
Oh yeah, probably. But like it just didn't work. It was just like it's too obvious what it is, right? And you know, if I can figure out exactly what it is that you're mashing together so quickly, surely the teacher's going to be able to too, because like I'm pretty sure he's familiar with that stuff as well. And he was, and he did, and he gave him all the same notes that I gave him. All the like, I was there when you know, because we're in like a small classroom, and he goes around the room and like we pitch our thing, and then he listens and he gives his notes right there. And you know, if you're standing around, like you're gonna hear it. And I was curious because like I had given him my criticisms and my notes and my thoughts, and he didn't like it, and he took it very personally, and he stopped talking to me from that point on ever since. And I was just like kind of vindicated because like he was saying the exact same things I was saying, and I was just like, you should have listened.
Told you, man. Told you.
I hate to say I told you so, but it's like I did. So you know, it's that kind of thing. Like it's not just saying X meets Y. Like if you're doing X meets Y, it can't just be X meets Y. There has to be some original elements to it. There has to be some
Yeah.
sort of hook that says, this is my own thing. Like, this is not just fan fiction. This is my fiction. You know, this is inspired by, but not ripped off of, right? That's the key, I think. And I think that, you know, I think that the iconic crew definitely gets that, and I've always kind of felt that myself, but I've never really articulated it, you know, quite as succinctly and mimetically as they did with the X meets Y pitch. Like that's just such a perfect way to like boil it down, because you do see that so much. It's like, oh, it's just like X meets Y, or if you love X and you love Y, then you're definitely gonna love, you know, Z, because Z is a mix of X and Y. It's just like, man, I've seen it so many times. It's just I'm so tired of it. I'm sick of it. The moment I see someone say any one of those things in their pitch for whether it's an indie comic, whether it's a movie, whether it's a TV show, or
Yeah.
even a stage play, like I immediately turn off when I see that X meets Y stuff, like because it's so overdone. It's so
I will say
overdone.
it's a lot more annoying though when it is like a
Yeah.
professional thing.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
if it
Like
is like a major studio movie and stuff like that. Like you should know better.
right. And I think that if you constantly have that X meets Y mentality in your pitch and in your writing and stuff, like it's going to bleed into that, and you're going to be thinking about X and Y throughout that writing instead of like thinking about character, instead of thinking about plot, instead of thinking about story and setting and design and all these elements that build and make your world. You know, like we could easily have done like, oh, Pineapple Pizza Man is X meets Y, you know, with a little bit of Z and a sprinkling of W, you know? Like we could do that, but we said like, okay, here's the character. Here's this other character. Here's how they fit together. You know, it's like there's inspiration for how like for these characters. You know, each one of them has their own kind of inspirations, and then but what we do with them is wholly original and based on their character, based on their personalities and how they intermingle and mix and clash and and uh and I don't think there's going to be too many people saying, oh, this is X meets Y. Like I don't think anybody's going to go read Pineapple Pizza Man and think like, oh, this is like this character meets this character. They'll just be like, oh, that was interesting. And then they might pick up like a couple elements where they're like, oh, this particular scene perhaps is like this is a bit of a spoof or parody on this very well-known trope from this or something like that. But
Yeah.
we don't take that and make it like the whole thing. It's like
Yeah.
a moment, and then it's like then we move on and do our own thing, right? Like it's like, okay, here's a joke, like that is very reminiscent of a thing that and then we take that joke and then we go like flip it on its head immediately and then start going off in different directions, like completely different directions from that thing that
And to everyone listening, he's referring to page 2.
Yes. I'm referring to page 2 of Pineapple Pizza Man. So if you want to read page 2 of Pineapple Pizza Man, which is available on our Patreon immediately for as low as
Half the
$2,
book
I believe.
is available on our Patreon Discord.
That's right. Half of Pineapple Pizza Man, half of the entire first issue, which is it's a 46-page issue. So that's like
Basically a full standard size issue is available right now.
It's basically a full standard size issue of Pineapple Pizza Man available on the Patreon right now if you decide to sign up for as little as $2.
Yep, and you can like talk to us there and stuff. Like there's chats. Like,
oh yeah, we prioritize the Patreon. Like if you have something you're saying on Patreon, like we're gonna see it. Like it's gonna be
we have a fan art page on there. There's a bunch of cool stuff on there.
Yep, and we've got plenty of discussion stuff. Like I mean, like we don't have a whole lot of Patreon supporters at the moment, so there's not a whole ton of discussion going on there, but we'd definitely like to see more going on because we do like talking shop. We really do, as is evidenced by this. So how would you pitch the first issue of Pineapple Pizza Man, like currently? Yeah, and I'll do my pitch as well. Like I want to say, I want to see what yours is first, since I'm the host and I can do that.
All right, that's fair. I don't have a pitch prepared.
No, just like if you were to
right now. Yeah.
If someone was just like, say you were just like on the street talking with someone, it gets brought up that you wrote a comic book, and they're like, oh, what's it about? You're off the top of your head elevator pitch to that person to try and get them interested enough to check it out. Like, what's that pitch?
It's a superhero comic where the principal character is an alien sentient slice of pineapple pizza, and the story revolves around him on a quest to save a loved one.
Okay.
Where we go on a bunch of different alien planets, and we see, we meet a bunch of interesting characters.
Okay. Not as enthusiastic as I would have liked. Work on that.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared.
Doesn't matter, man. You're the writer. You're the writer of Pineapple Pizza Man. If someone comes up to you in the street and they say, hey, man, tell me about your comic, you have to be prepared to be like, this is why it's the best comic and you need to buy it because it's so
in my defense,
good.
I've always had a very monotone voice.
Fix it. Fix it in post. Well, the way I would say it is I would say, like, in a world of superheroes and villains, there are set unwritten cardinal rules of engagement. And Pineapple Pizza Man being the foremost and most popular and most successful superhero in the world, he goes on a quest to get revenge when those rules of engagement, particularly regarding the involvement of family, is broken by his primary nemesis. That's how I would do it. Yeah.
It's accurate. I mean, we're kind of saying the same thing, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah. But my only issue with my pitch, I think, is I don't really manage to fit in anything about him being a anthropomorphic slice of pineapple pizza.
Yeah, see, that's why mine's better.
No. It just doesn't got the flow. But I think I don't really have to because it's in the title. Ha ha ha
This is
ha.
fair. This is
See
fair.
what I did there?
It's called Pineapple Pizza Man. I should have. Gotta have more faith in the audience, I suppose. You're right.
Yeah. One of the things that I don't like about the elevator pitch is that it's so short. Because there's a lot of things that I find that I want to say about Pineapple Pizza Man when I'm pitching it to somebody that it's difficult to fit in like just like a sentence or two, which is like that's the elevator pitch. It's like a sentence or two. That is not a
Yeah.
lot of time. But there's so much that I do want to put in there. And that's I think one of the good things about like the Indiegogo campaign and the Kickstarter campaign and all that kind of stuff is that you can, have like at least a couple of paragraphs. You don't want to go too verbose on it. You got to still keep it fairly concise, but like you at least have a couple of paragraphs that you could kind of, you know, um, ease people into, multiple aspects of that. It's like, okay, here's the general plot. Here's a little bit about the main character. Here's a little bit about like the tone and whatnot. So it's like you can cover a few extra bases on that, at least.
Yeah. It's a little bit better on Indiegogo. Or like, you know, like that style.
What is that? What?
What?
Oh, I just sorry. It's just uh, a video just kind of like popped up on X that just kind of like was very surprising to see. I did not see
Was
that
it from
coming.
Poe?
No, it was just like this lady jumping into a river to grab a crocodile. But there's like all these other crocodiles in the river there too, and they just like ignore her. I'm just like, what is up with that?
That's the origin story of Meth Gator.
Yeah, our first major, but not the first, but like our first major kind of um, community character, because that is the thing that we like to do is
Yeah.
create characters using community suggestions on Twitter. Those are always fun because everybody's seen the template before where it's like, oh, like first comment gets to pick their gender, second comment gets to
Yeah.
pick their height, or third comment gets to pick their, I don't know, clothes or something
They're
like that.
fun, but they always become a cluster at the same time.
Yeah, they can be pretty chaotic, and sometimes you're gonna get something good, sometimes you're gonna get something not so good. But so far we've had pretty good success with them. There's a couple elements of them that I would probably like change one or two small things just to kind of make them a little more coherent
Hmm.
for the sake of story, and for maybe for the sake of what do you call it? I guess clear like design. Yeah, the actual like design aspects, like Silver Spoon. I like Silver Spoon for the most part,
Hmm.
except for the collar. Not a big fan of the collar.
Not a fan of the color, huh? I don't
Yeah,
remember what the
yeah.
color was like.
Or at least not in its current iteration. I'm sure we could probably do something to kind of like fancy up the collar and make it look less weird to me and a little more just like generally
Oh, that
appealing.
the clown collar. Forgot about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, not the clown. It's not a clown collar. It's like those like Victorian kind of like dandruff
Right.
catching
Uh,
collars,
yeah.
which in a modern day doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And I understand, based on like the character that we've kind of designed or concocted out of those design elements, like it makes sense. Uh, but I think we could do better. Like we could take that and turn it into an element that still says kind of the same thing without being like so direct,
But a bit more like modern and streamlined.
yeah, a
Kind
little
of.
bit of more of like a modern streamlined twist to it because it's like they don't really serve that purpose anymore. Like nobody really needs that in the modern day. So it's like we could turn it into something else, and still keep that sort of like inspiration in the design. Um, if you know to look for it, I suppose. But yeah, we're getting into like a little bit of a nitty gritty brainstorm stuff since we're the only ones here left.
Oh, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just us. We got no more viewers at the moment. X, Zeta, and Scud have left the building, but that's okay. We thank you guys very much for stopping by and hanging out with us. And you know what? Hopefully you guys come back to watch the rest later on. I think we got some good stuff we're talking about here.
Want to move on to the next topic, or you still want to
Yeah,
talk about
let's
pitches?
like finish this off with like the X-Men thing. So one of the like we were talking on Twitter a little bit about that and about how like there are a lot of glaring issues with X2, particularly in it, not just in its execution, but in how it's just too similar to the first one in a lot of ways. Like um I think for me, primarily, one of the biggest problems with the movie is the fact that they made um, Wolverine the main character again, right? Because I'm just like, well, we already did that. We did that in X1. Like, why are you doing that again? Like, it's X-Men. It's not Wolverine and the X-Men. It's just X-Men. So and I look at like Guardians of the Galaxy as like a very good example of this, and because I just did recently watch Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which was actually shockingly excellent.
Oh yeah,
Um,
such a good.
yeah, I did not expect that, especially with all the absolute garbage coming out of the MCU recently. Love and
I expected it
Thunder.
would at least be decent just because of James Gunn.
I mean, I hoped, but like I worried at the same time that he was probably going to get more interference from the studio on the third one. Because like it just seemed to be the way things are going. It's just like all the studio interference, all the ESG stuff, trying to like force all the diversity check boxes on everybody. So I'm very happy that that wasn't the case with this. Like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was amazing. It was like I said before, like shockingly excellent.
And it was
Um,
fairly small scale. Sorry, this is kind of a
yeah,
Guardians tangent right now, but it was a smaller scale than the second movie, which
yeah.
surprised me.
Like they didn't try to like up the ante and make the threat bigger,
It
like
was a
they so
bigger
often do.
emotional threat.
It
It was
was
a
a
bigger
it was a
personal
much
threat.
more personal threat. It was a very much more like like emotionally engaging story
Hmm.
than it is like a physically engaging story. Like, oh, the threat is bigger, so it's better. It's not always true, and I think they definitely went the right way about it. But one
I
thing
agree.
I wanted to point out about that is that the Guardians of the Galaxy movies actually do well what I think they should have done more of in the X-Men movies. For instance, the first movie, even though Star-Lord is sort of like the main character, it's actually a little more heavy on the Groot side of things, I would say. Like he's kind of the one that gets the biggest emotional arc in the movie because he's the one that like sacrifices himself for them and then like, Rocket gets like the seedling, and they end up raising him
Mm.
to be a new Groot. And I would say in the second movie, that's where Peter Quill kind of gets more of a time to shine emotionally, and then they also kind of focus a little more on Gamora and Nebula as well and their relationship. So you've got like the first one is
Yeah.
kind of like more um, coming together and a little more focus on Groot, and then the second one is more like Quill and uh, Nebula and whatnot. Actually, the first one also was very much Drax focused in a way.
I was gonna say it's very Drax because of Ronan.
Yeah, it was kind of more like on the emotional side of the arcs. It was more like of a Drax and Groot kind of thing. And then yeah, the second one was more like Peter, Gamora, and Nebula. and then they kind of just introduced Mantis. And then in the Christmas special, it was very much like Drax and Mantis, right?
Yep.
And then in the final one, it's kind of like all about Rocket, with like some of like Peter kind of like finishing his arc from like what happened with the two Avenger movies as well. So it's
Yeah.
like one thing I love about the Guardians movies is that even though each movie does focus on the team as a whole, each character gets their moments to shine. And I think Guardians of the Galaxy 3 in particular did that the best of all of them. Especially and also in the action sequences as well. That hallway
Mm.
fight in the third
So
one,
good with
so good.
Beastie Boys and yeah,
That was one of the best fight scenes I've ever seen.
it was really good. And
Especially for like
people
a
on
comic
Twitter,
book.
yeah, people on Twitter were like, "Oh, it's Zack Snyder," blah blah blah. It's like, no, it's not. Shut up.
Oh no,
Not really.
Zack Snyder's got nothing on this. Like,
No, especially the scene that they're trying to compare it to from that girl movie. That was it, Sucker Punch.
they're trying to. Oh no, Sucker Punch. Oh, that was
This
awful.
worst movie. They're like, they ripped it up from Sucker Punch.
No,
Like,
they
gross.
didn't. If
Not
anything, if anything, this was more of an evolution of the Daredevil hallway fight scene.
yeah, or like the raid, or what was it? Was it Old Boy or was it the raid?
Old Boy.
Yeah.
Although I think the Raid also did a similar thing. Yes, I think the Raid did a similar thing because I remember seeing like some like behind the scenes stuff with that, where they were doing this thing. Like they had like the walls. They had people that held the walls up, and the walls were not like connected to the floor, and so they had it so that like if they like it was a very tight confined corridor, right?
So they
But
could
like
move the
this
walls to move the camera
but the
around.
cameraman has to be like moving around like crazy and stuff. So like if the cameraman needed to like go around this character who's like too close to the wall, the guys holding the walls, they were choreographed to like move back out the whole wall out of the way of the cameraman so he can do that swoop. And then like they would move with the cameraman so that they when they come back in and he's fully turned around, the wall's back where it's supposed to be. Right?
That's cool. That's cool.
Like that's inventive. That is
Yeah.
insanely inventive filmmaking. So that's really cool. I mean, the Guardian stuff, like it clearly used a lot more of like CGI for the heavy lifting of like, you know,
Yeah.
for getting all of the choreography to work and whatnot. But it did so in a way that was like really good, really convincing, really cinematic, really fun, and like it was just this one big hallway fight sequence where it goes through and like each of the characters gets like ample time to like show off their skills, their move sets, like be a badass, have like that really cool cinematic dispatching moment. And like I was actually like my wife and I were watching this and we had to like actually express out loud to each other like this is really cool because it
Yeah.
was just like it's gotten to the point where we actually expect crap from Marvel. That when we get something that
Has
is genuinely good, it's a surprise. How
not
did it?
just Marvel, like most of Hollywood. Is
Yeah,
a
but like
surprise.
for the MCU in particular, like how did it come to that? How did that happen?
It's
Like
crazy.
how did they fall so far? Like I
So fast,
remember,
like immediately after Endgame, quality
yeah,
dropped.
but even then, like I like there's always been like kind of like a bit of a fluctuation of quality. Like and there's been highs and low points. Like I would say, you know, uh, a high point for me was Iron Man 2. Not everybody agrees, but I thought Iron Man 2 was a high point. I thought that Avengers, the first one, was a low point.
Really,
Um, yeah, I do. I do. I didn't like a lot of the costumes. I didn't like a lot of the lighting. I
it's
thought
very TV lighting. Yeah.
it's very TV lighting. And I think a lot of that has to do with Joss Whedon. I thought he got better on Age of Ultron, but then I thought he kind of tried to do too much at the same time. So,
Yeah.
but then another of the high points was The Winter Soldier. It's a phenomenal movie, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and then like at some point it just started going down and down and down and down and down and down. You know, I wanted to love Captain Marvel. Like it was my most anticipated of all the Marvel movies at the time that it was coming out because I was
I
like,
asked
oh,
why.
well, for me, it was because I wasn't super familiar with Captain Marvel. Like I knew Miss Marvel from way back when, but they were kind of adapting more of her more modern counterpart, her more modern iteration, which I'd
Mhm.
never read. So I was like, this should be interesting. This should be something new, you know. And I've heard some people say good things about it. Obviously, those people were lying to me, but like, and then like the whole Brie Larson thing happened, and then like we got the trailers, and then there was the whole cat fiasco with Nick
Oh my
Fury,
god.
and it was just like one thing after the other, and then I tried watching the movie, and I couldn't get 15 minutes into it. I literally have not been able to finish that movie to this day, to this
Yeah.
day,
It
and that
it's
was
not
right
just that it's
after.
bad. It's
What's
not just
that?
that it's bad. The movie. It's not just that it's bad. It's boring.
It's boring. It's really, really boring.
Like everything, down to the lighting, down to like the cinematography, everything, like the set design.
Yeah, like there's just nothing about it that makes me want to keep watching. It's just like the Batman, boring. I know a lot of people say good things about it, but I just found it dreadfully boring. And why is the Penguin just a guy? He's just a guy. The Penguin's
I
supposed
mean,
to be like, like a bit of a freak. Instead, he's
in
just
the
like a
comics
guy.
recently, he has become kind of like before the Batman movie came out. He kind of transitioned to be just more of a guy.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that.
I
I
don't
like
either.
I like the traditional Batman villains. I like them being like freaks and weirdos and stuff that just like have decided to just like embrace their freakness, but for a life of crime.
Yeah,
It's more interesting. I don't like who do I give? Why do I give a shit about this guy? Why is he called the Penguin? I don't care why. Why? Because he's just some guy.
yeah. Like why is
Like
Catwoman in that movie called Catwoman?
right, exactly. Like they could have been called anything else because there's nothing really to say, like nothing really visually to give
Yeah,
them that nickname. So
that's the
like
danger of going too realistic with comic books.
you can't go
The
too
whole
realistic
the
with the
whole
comic book
thing falls
movies.
apart.
Yeah. Getting back to the X-Men though, like that was one of my major criticisms of the first X-Men was that, they were there was this inherent embarrassment of the source material, which
Mhm.
was like the costumes, and
Yeah,
there was that famous line where, he's like, "Oh, you actually go out in this?" And he's like got the whole leather outfit on, and he's like, "What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?" And like I remember like watching that initially, like, and I was in the theater, and I said out loud, I was like, "Yes," it's
yes,
like,
I would.
"Yes, yes, we would prefer that," you
It'd
know?
be visually interesting at least.
Yes, but also it's like it's more iconic, it's more
Mhm.
recognizable, and like it can be done well. We've seen it done well, especially with like things like the original Deadpool movie. They took that, comic accurate costume and they made it work and work well, and they made it as iconic in the film as it is in the comic book. You can
Yeah,
do it, you
we only
know?
got close once with a main X Men movie, and that was the very end of what was it? I think it was Apocalypse.
I think it was Apocalypse, but that was also the worst X-Men movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it
like
was only there for like a couple frames.
yeah, like I couldn't give two shits about X-Men Apocalypse. Like I watched it
Mhm.
one time and I was just like, this is absolute garbage. How is this following up Days of Future Past? This is awful.
Yeah,
But
and then Dark Phoenix. I think I watched maybe 30 minutes of Dark Phoenix, and I shut it off.
I can't remember if I actually watched Dark Phoenix or not. I'm not 100% sure. I feel like I might have seen like several clips enough to get the gist of it. I
Yeah,
might have seen it, the whole thing, but like if I did, it was very forgettable and
it's
just
just
not
very
good.
embarrassing how they fumbled that storyline twice.
Twice. it's one of the most iconic X-Men stories, most well-known iconic X-Men stories of all time,
Yep.
and
Yep.
they fumbled it so like
So
completely both
hard
times.
twice in the span
But
of
like not only
15
that,
years.
but like they fumbled it the first time and then they came and did it again and fumbled it worse.
Yeah,
It was worse the second time around.
it really was.
How do you
Like X3 is a horrible movie, but it's at least watchable.
Yeah, it is watchable, and there's enough moments in there that are fun that you can kind of like get over a lot of the elements that are bad. Like I remember enjoying X-Men 3 and I was just like, yeah, okay, like it's not as
Danger Room
it's
scene is fun. Kelsey
yeah,
Grammer's Beast is fun.
he's great as Beast. I loved him as Beast. And
I
there
wish
was
I wish
hmm?
Nightcrawler came back for that movie though.
Oh yeah. And let's getting back to X2, like that was my biggest issue with X2 is having Wolverine be the main character again. And the main reason why is because they set up Nightcrawler so perfectly in that opening
Mm-hmm.
sequence. They made him not only uh interesting but also extremely cool and badass and cinematic. And you're just like, I can't wait to see more of Nightcrawler kicking
Yeah.
ass like this. Like the way he pops in and out, the way they filmed it, the way they did all the effects, the sound effects for his bamfing, it just all fit. And even though he wasn't in a comic accurate outfit, it made sense why, because he wasn't really on the team yet. You know, he was kind of like living as a hobo recluse of sorts. Um,
Like
so like
they get him like after Xavier is out of commission for that movie, right?
right. And but no, he's not out of commission yet. I don't think at that point.
Okay,
Um,
it's been a
but
minute.
but like at the end of the first X-Men movie, I believe Wolverine leaves, right? I'm pretty sure, right? At the end of the X-Men 1, he leaves. And then at the beginning of X-Men 2, it just starts right away with Nightcrawler, you know, doing his badass assassination attempt on the president. And then he gets shot and he like snaps out of his mind control. And then you realize like, oh
Yeah,
shit, he was being mind controlled, which they did a very good way of like showing you and not telling you that he was mind controlled, which was really good. And like it would have been a perfect opportunity to craft an X-Men story where Nightcrawler is the new guy and he's the main character primarily. And that would have been far more interesting because he's a really, really interesting character. And he's a character that can very easily hold a movie by himself.
it
You know,
really.
and when you add him to a team of interesting characters and let them play off of each other, that's where the magic happens. And they didn't allow it to happen. The moment they finished that amazing opening scene with Nightcrawler, they just brought back Wolverine again and they were just like, let's do X-Men 1 again. And I was so disappointed when I watched that movie the first time because I was just like waiting for more Nightcrawler and waiting for more Nightcrawler and they just kept not giving it to me.
Yeah,
And
there's a lot of weird things about those old Fox X-Men movies, like
yeah,
pairing Rogue up with Iceman instead of Gambit. Like, why?
why did they have such a hard time bringing Gambit into it in the first place? Like, like,
Yeah,
like they could have easily done that. And then they made X-Men Origins Wolverine, where they brought in the guy who played John Carter as
yeah,
Gambit, and I thought he was fine as Gambit. Like, you know,
it was
maybe
fun.
not perfect, but like, you know, he's kind of like in that general age range of Anna Paquin. I'm not sure how you
I
pronounce her
mean,
name. Paquin,
True Blood.
Paquin. But yeah, like he could have done fine. Like they could have brought him in to like X3 or whatever. Like I think that X3 came after X-Men Origins.
No,
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 I can't remember the timeline exactly.
it was the
But
trilogy, then the Wolverine,
oh, okay. So yeah,
Origins Wolverine.
but they kept talking about doing a solo Gambit movie.
With Channing Tatum.
with Channing Tatum, and now they're bringing him back for the Deadpool third movie, which seems like they're really going for a Deadpool kills the Fox universe kind of thing.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, not a fan
Honestly.
of that. I don't like when they come in and they bring back beloved, former movies only to kill them all off and be like, haha, they don't matter anymore. Focus on me, the new hotness. And it's like you're not really hot though. You gotta prove your hotness. So I mean, they did that with Michael Keaton in The Flash. They're just like, oh, we're bringing back Michael Keaton as Batman, and they're just like, oh yeah, we're killing him off. It's like I don't care that he does this whole like, oh, I'm sacrificing myself for the plot. And it's like I don't care. Like, don't kill off our heroes like that. Like don't trivialize them. Don't kill them to build up. That's the problem with a lot of this stuff. They're always trying to tear down what came before to build themselves up. But that doesn't work. You can only build yourself up on your merits. Tearing the other one down is not going to do that. All that's going to do is make people hate you because you're tearing down that thing that they love. Like that. Why do they not get this? They keep trying to do this.
Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars. They do it in Star Wars. They're doing it with like I'm pretty sure they're doing it in Deadpool with like the whole Fox universe thing. And they keep doing it in comics and movies and all kinds of things. And we don't like it. It's never worked. It's never going to work. Stop doing it. Tired of that shit.
I hope he does. I hope it's not like what you're saying, but I hope it is a decent farewell to the Fox universe,
Hopefully.
like the X-Men and like the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, like I like that they're bringing them back, but it's like I want them to respect what came before. I don't want them to trash what came before. I don't want them to just kill off everything that came before just to try and prop themselves up. I want them to respect it and be like, here's a legacy that we're coming from, and we want to build upon it. We don't want to tear it down. We want to build upon it. We say like we appreciate and we love what came before, and we're doing our own thing now, and this is our way to kind of like bridge the gap between the two, and show our love and appreciation for what came before, and then offer you something new with our own thing, our own twist on it. I could totally get behind that, but the whole like, well, let's kill everybody that came before and tear it all down so that we can try and make ourselves look better because we're the only game in town now because everyone else is dead. I don't like that.
I will say, I'd be fine if they killed off the reboot cast from like First Class onward. Because First Class was such a great movie, and so was Days of Future Past, and then they just completely dropped the ball on every movie after that.
Yeah.
Like,
well, not every movie, because like Deadpool 2 kind of takes place in that universe, and Deadpool 2's I thought it was pretty good.
I don't really count Deadpool. I count that as like its own thing.
Yeah, Deadpool's sort of like a bit of an anomalous thing because it sort of like takes place in the Fox universe, but also kind of doesn't at the same time. Yeah. Like it feels like it's its own thing separate from it because they got the very like comic accurate Colossus, which I love. I love what they did with Colossus. I loved Cable. He was great too. Like I love it because like Deadpool's like, yeah, we're going comic accurate. Even Juggernaut, like they're going comic accurate all the way with everything in Deadpool. I'm just like, that's what the Fox thing should have been from the beginning. This is how they should have been dealing with the X-Men. Keep it accurate as possible, make it fun, like these are such iconic and timeless characters because they have great personalities, they have great interplay amongst each other. Use that. Like you've got
such
decades and decades of material that you could be utilizing to make these like some of the most spectacular, engaging, and fun movies of all time, and you just ignore it so that you can put your own, like self-filleting fan fiction in there with a X-Men veneer. It's being made like in the Fox universe, like in the original X-Men trilogy, like it was clearly being made by people that were embarrassed by the source material and not people that loved it and thought like this is something that we could really, make the masses love if we just
Yeah.
like tackle it in a way that's going to, put it in the best light possible while still being comic accurate, you know?
I think I read an article or watched a video at some point where it said Bryan Singer kind of banned X-Men comic books from being on set.
Yeah, terrible idea.
Horrible idea.
Yeah, like if anything, like if you have a director or a writer or even the actors and they're like reading the comic books, like trying to get into their characters or trying to make sure that their script is true to the comics, if not directly a particular storyline from the comic, at least very in the spirit of the comic. Like the first X-Men movie was not a story from the comics at all. You know,
Uh,
it was his own original story, but it did have like the spirit of the X-Men that I liked, and I liked it a lot. I still think X-Men 1 is probably the best of the bunch because it was a great introduction. My only
I prefer
issues with
First Class personally. Like there's some problems with First Class, but I think I prefer that one.
I have some problems with First Class as well, and I think my problems with First Class outweigh the problems that I have with X1. Uh,
Oh yeah, yeah, that's fair.
Particularly the casting of Jennifer Garner. Sorry, not Jennifer
Jennifer
Garner.
Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence, Mrs. I created female heroes.
Well, that's
Uh,
in hindsight. Like back then, she was a good actress, and she
no,
was
she
fun.
wasn't. She wasn't a good
I don't
actress.
think
She was
I think
absolutely horribly miscast as Mystique. Her forehead's too big. She just doesn't look right in the makeup. Her voice is all wrong. The like everything about her I just thought was like horribly miscast as Mystique. And then because she became a big name, they kept making more and more of the focus of those movies on Mystique
where she became the
in
main character. Yeah.
where she became the main character, similarly to the Wolverine thing. Instead of letting the X-Men shine and have their own individual, moments or like their own individual weight throughout each movie, it was just more and more and more Jennifer Lawrence, and it was less and less and less Mystique too. She
Yep.
wasn't playing Mystique; she was playing Jennifer Lawrence playing
She
Mystique.
got enough star power where she was like, "I'm the main character, but I'm not going to be in the makeup."
Yeah, and I hate that. I absolutely hate that. I thought that, the original Mystique, um, with Rebecca Romaine Stamos, she did a phenomenal job. She
Mhm.
was great. And you know
She was
what? She didn't
gorgeous
have a
too.
lot of She didn't have a lot of lines. She didn't have a lot of like time on screen, but when she was, it was effective. When she was, it mattered. It counted. It was iconic even. And she stole those scenes. She stole the show. Like she was like gorgeous. She was sexy. She was like every bit the femme fatale that Mystique is supposed to be. And I thought the whole thing of having her be naked was actually like a really good design choice for the film. Because she is a shapeshifter. Why would she wear clothes? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Her clothes are her. You cut off a sleeve when she's transformed and you're cutting off like a chunk of her skin or something like that, right? So it's like, yeah, that makes sense that when she's like not, in any sort of costume or anything, like she why wouldn't she be naked, right? Like that's an interesting choice. I mean, she could as just as easily like make, shapeshift clothing for herself that is comic accurate. And I think most people would like really have appreciated that. But I think they were kind of realizing like, you know what, we really want to get some of the normies with this. So like,
Hmm.
let's have her be naked. That's going to be hot. And sure enough, it was. Like, there are people to this day at conventions, cosplaying as Naked Mystique from the first X-Men movie, and with good reason. Like, just as much as
It,
the
it
men like
it is a
looking at
good
the.
design.
Yeah, it is. And just as much as the men like looking at the sexy naked Mystique, like that version of her, so too do the women, and so too do they want to dress like her, and like, like portray that character. Like that's something with like with this whole like woke ESG new thing that they don't get is that it's not just men that like attractive women. Women like attractive women too. Like
Yeah.
women like attractive female characters. They want to dress as these attractive female characters. They want to like, like that beauty is universal.
I mean, it's just like I don't think most men want to look at like disgusting fat dudes either.
No,
Like
we don't.
people want to watch attractive people.
Like if you're going to do the character the Blob in the movies, he should be disgusting because he's morbidly obese. But at the same time, he's morbidly obese and a mutant, and that plays into his power set. So he can also be visually interesting when you start using him in a fight sequence or something like that. I remember
Yeah.
they used him in X-Men Origins Wolverine. I don't remember a whole lot about how they used him, but like,
I think it
like
was
I think it was pretty
like
decent
like
how they portrayed him.
like at least visually, yeah. Like it was a good like practical makeup suit.
Yeah, yeah, and he's supposed to be fat. It's like that's part of his character. Like if they were gonna do, um, Big Bertha, let's say from the West Coast, no, East Coast Avengers. Oh, sorry, not that. Great Lakes Avengers. Sorry, the Great Lakes Avengers, like Mister Invincible, not Invincible, Immortal, Mister Immortal, Big Bertha. She was this like very skinny girl, and then she could turn into like this gigantic, morbidly obese woman, like almost like a female version of the Blob, you know,
Hmm.
and it's disgusting. It nobody like wants to look at that, but like when you have it in the context of like the superpowers and depending on how you film that, it can be both disgusting and visually interesting at the same time. Put it in a fight sequence and stuff like that. Put it in some sort of action sequence, a chase
And you
sequence,
can play it for
something.
laughs.
You can play it for laughs. You can play it totally seriously as well. There's a whole lot of ways that it can work. Even comic accurate, where she's in the spandex. Ugh. But like, and I'm saying this as someone who just like, that's a
I
sticking point for me. Is morbidly
I
obese
see enough
women.
of
Like
that at
that's a
Walmart.
yeah. Shout out to Sugar Tits, the content creator on YouTube. She's I follow her on Twitter, and she keeps reposting like these horrible morbidly obese women like Lizzo and stuff when they do
Uh,
this like awful stuff, and it's just like assaults my eyes, and I'm just like, why do you keep doing this to me, Sugar Tits?
if I
Why?
never have to see Lizzo again in my life, it's gonna be too soon.
If I never have to hear about Lizzo ever again in my entire life, it'll be too soon. But anyway, getting away from that, that's a whole other topic. Getting back to this, like we're kind of all over the map with this, but there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the Fox X-Men movies because there's a lot of content there. That Fox X-Men thing ran for almost like 20 years.
Yeah, and we're all over the place because they too were all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, technically, it's still kind of going because like there's still Deadpool, which is sort of like a bit of a semi X like Fox X-Men
Conclusion
holdover.
and Secret Wars might, there's rumors Secret Wars might bring some of that into.
Yeah, but Secret Wars is terrible and nobody liked it, so it's like, why?
Hmm?
I
Like
like
the
no.
upcoming movie, there's rumors that they might bring in
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking
something.
Secret Invasion. I'm thinking of the TV show
Uh,
that nobody likes.
yeah, no, there's a lot of secrets.
Yeah, a lot of secrets, but yeah, for X-Men, like the only two things I would really change about the first movie is getting them on the original suits and not being embarrassed about it. Like make it work. Do what
When you say
Deadpool did.
original suits, you think in
Comic accurate suits.
like the '90s Jim Lee, like the animated series, like that
Yeah,
version.
yeah, absolutely. Or even the original X-Men costumes, like more along the lines of like those, like when it was like Beast, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Angel and Iceman. Um,
There was
yeah.
concept art from I think it was Alex Ross for the first movie. I don't know if
Oh
you
yeah.
saw any of those.
No.
Like those were really cool. It was a little bit more minimalist, but you should Google that. Alex Ross X-Men 1 concept art.
I am looking that up. So I do want to see that. Mm.
Like it's not super comic accurate, but it would have been at least something more visually
Yeah,
interesting.
no, see that does look a little more like comic accurate to me in a sense. Like it's not perfect, you
Like
know,
all that
definitely.
black and then like the color highlights and all that.
You know, it doesn't scream X-Men to me, it screams X-Force. That
Yeah,
kind
I can
those
see
kind of
that.
designs they seem more to me like X-Force. Like here's the designs here. Like does this not open up? Oh, it's all the way over here. Yeah, like the big X. I like that. I think that's great. But yeah, it seems more like X Force to me. Like, they always kind of had like the more like modern, kind of edgy kind of designs.
Mm.
But yeah, no, like I just wanted more comic accurate, you know, designs for the suits, like they did with Spider Man. You know, it worked. It worked in Spider Man. Like that
Yeah,
was the first movie where they did the comic accurate suit, and people were like, "Oh shit!" Like comic accurate suits can work on film. You know,
and like so many people like that Sam Raimi costume is still their favorite of all time.
it looks great. Not gonna lie, it looks great. But I do think that the Andrew Garfield costume from the second Amazing Spider-Man is actually probably the best uh, representation of a Spider-Man costume I've seen. I think in a movie.
Yeah.
Like that's my favorite. The movie was terrible. One of the worst movies
Oh
ever.
yeah, no, no.
It
I'm we're just talking about the costume right now.
yeah, but the costume is mwah, aces. Aces. Excellent costume. And a lot of their the scenes where he's like flying around the city doing his swinging and stuff, fabulous. I
Oh,
love
that
it.
second movie had some of the best like web swinging like
Oh yeah,
cinematography in all Spider-Man movies.
no question about that. Absolutely 100% fact.
Like like
But
the MCU has really dropped the ball
yeah,
on those Spidey movies.
they really have. But like that movie was ass. That it was start to finish. It was absolutely awful. Like it only had like those two elements to it that really helped it to not like it didn't help it to not suck. It didn't save it in any capacity. But you can at least look at those two elements and be like, those were great. The costume, the web swinging, and everything else was garbage, hot
The
garbage,
casting was
top to
just
bottom. I
like
disagree.
Andrew Garfield. You don't like him as Spidey?
I don't. I like him as
Hmm.
Spidey. I like him as Spidey a lot. Don't like him as Peter Parker. The way he did Peter Parker, I didn't like. He was too cool. He was too cool, man. Too cool.
Yeah.
He needed to be more nerdy. He needed to be more of an outcast. He was too damn cool, too damn handsome. I'm sorry. It doesn't
Like
work for Peter Parker.
I think he can be handsome, but if he's handsome, he has to be awkward and nerdy.
Like
Because if he's
he
handsome and cool, there's no reason why he's unpopular.
yeah, like the way he is now, he's like that level of like coolness and that Andrew Garfield portrayed, I would put that as something like a like after college Peter Parker, you know?
Mhm.
Like when he's like married to MJ, he's gone through his nerd phase, he's gone through his awkward phase, he's gone through his like, you know, who am I as a hero and who am I as Peter Parker phase, and he's come out at the other side and he's just like, this is who I am. This is Peter Parker. Now I have like, you know, come out the
Where
other side of my awkward growing teen phase, and now I'm like I'm a
he's
well-rounded
comfortable in his
adult.
own skin.
Yeah, exactly. But it was high school Peter again. high school Peter needs to be a nerd. Peter needs to be an outcast. High school Peter needs to be bullied by Flash Thompson. It doesn't work as Peter Parker if he's cool, running around skateboarding, playing basketball, picking up chicks. I'm just like, I'm sorry, no. Like he had his moments with the ladies, but it was just like he was still a nerd at the time, you know?
Yeah.
Uh,
I think they felt this had to be different.
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
so. I think, yeah, you're probably right. They were probably trying to be like, oh, we have to do a different kind of Peter Parker. We can't
it
do the
wasn't that
same.
long. It wasn't that long after Spider-Man 3, was it? Like Spider-Man 3 was
No, it was like a
2009.
2 years after.
Yeah,
I think it
2009 to
was
2012 or something like that. I think.
yeah, it was super super short of a turnaround, and it was jarring at the same time too because, um, like the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man 3 film did like better than any of the other Spider-Man films. Like it made gangbusters numbers. And then everyone's just like, hell yes, let's go Spider-Man 4, Sam Raimi Spider-Man 4. And he's like, yeah, yeah, Sam Raimi, I'm on the scene. I'm going to be doing Vulture in Spider-Man 4. And everyone's like, oh yeah, Vulture. And then like they just canceled it outright. And they're just like, yeah, we're going to this Mark Webb. See Webb. He's got Webb in his name. It's perfect for
It was more.
Spider-Man. He's
He's
never
more.
done. He's never done a feature film before. He does music videos, but perfect. And you could just see, like, I saw it right away. I was like, dude, they're hiring a cheap director because they want to save some money. They're rebooting it because they want to get all that #1 money. They don't want to hire all the people back again because they're big stars now, so they don't want to pay all the big star money to make Spider-Man 4. Um,
Yeah,
and it
it's
was just,
disappointing we didn't get that continuation.
yeah, it's sad. It sucked because like I was like, dude, like we're invested in Peter. We're invested in Tobey Maguire and all those characters. It's like we
Not so
want to
much
see what's
MJ.
next. Yeah, not so much
I
MJ. I
like his Russian landlord daughter. Such a better
Yes.
match.
Oh my
Such a
god,
better match for Peter.
dude, if they came out with a Spider-Man 4 and it's like MJ like is out to pasture and Peter gets together with the Russian lady, I would be all for that. I'm just like I don't care that that's not comic accurate because they set up this character as like a side thing, but then like everybody fell in love with her. I'm just like, let's go with
She
it.
was throwing herself at the
Throwing
entirety of
herself,
Spider-Man 3,
throwing herself at her.
like
She
frothing at the mouth, like on her knees, throwing herself at him.
she might as well have been naked with her legs spread, walking on her hands towards him with her crotch right at his face.
Balancing a pan of cookies.
Yeah, on her foot above her. It's just like and milk in the other foot. It's like Jesus, she is
Like she was thirsty for that Pete.
she's the one.
She was the one.
In that universe, I fully believe that she's the one for Peter because it's just like dude, Mary Jane did not respect him. She did not like she was not a good woman.
And I
She was
don't think
awful.
Pete was that interested. Like they were so on and off.
It was they were so on and off to a point where like eventually I was just like just stay off.
Yeah, just we're
Just
tired of
stay
this.
off.
Please
Like
stay off.
they introduced Gwen Stacy in the second one as well, and I'm just like he's got all these
It was also boring.
excellent options for love interest, and I'm just like I'm not invested in this version of MJ. I do not like the actress that they have hired to play MJ. So I'm just like I'm ready to explore different avenues with Peter, man. Like let's go, Toby. Show some love to that Russian cutie.
Hmm. Like constantly wearing higher and higher midriffs
Yeah,
around
yeah, and bigger plates of cookies.
him. I can bake you a chocolate cake.
Yeah, man, it is so hard to talk about these movies without going on massive tangents, isn't it? There's so
Yeah.
many different tangents you can go. Like every time you touch on one element to any one of these old Fox movies, like it just brings up so many other thoughts and emotions and directions that you can take it with like
the early 2000s and the superhero movies that came from them were such a different time. Like
Hmm.
it's like it feels like a completely different world. Like watching those movies.
Yeah, and as much as I think like Blade is the best of the best of the best of the best, I do feel like unfortunately it was probably at fault for the reason why X1 went with the leather instead of going with more comic accurate costumes because Blade made leather cool, man. He made that leather trench coat
It was
cool
Blade,
as
and
hell.
it was the one-two punch of Blade and Matrix.
Yeah, Neo and all that, because that did come before X-Men, which was in 2000. Neo was like 1998, I want to say. And then Blade, I think, was like either the year before or the year after. But yeah, and those two definitely did influence the X-Men because like I think at that point Hollywood in general was just like leather is what's cool. We're doing leather. Everything is leather. You can't be a hero unless you're wearing leather.
So Blade was 98, Matrix was 99.
Yeah,
So
okay.
yeah,
So that
yep.
was the 1-2 punch I think, where they were just like, dude, these movies are doing so well. They're so good. Everybody loves them. It's because of the leather. And I'm just like, unfortunately, you learned the wrong lesson as usual, Hollywood. You stupid assholes up in production.
Yeah, like the leather works for Blade because like he's like he works at night. He's street level. He's a bounty hunter, not a bounty hunter, but a vampire hunter. Like
Yeah, and he is half vampire as well. So it's like, okay, yeah, sure.
yeah,
Makes
and
sense.
then
All decked out in black.
Underworld
Mm,
also completely stole from Blade's
yeah.
like iconography
Yeah, Underworld definitely like went like looked at Blade and was just like, let's do that, but add werewolves.
and have Kate Beckinsale just in the tightest leather outfit.
Yeah, like I want it. I don't want her to be able to move on set
If
without the
if she breathes, you're fired.
yeah. If she breathes, if she even so much as turns in your direction, you're fired.
If she can do a single crunch, you're dead to me.
If she can sit down, then you're dead. Your family's dead. Your family's dead. Uh, but yeah, that definitely, I think they all did kind of contribute to that um, phobia of comic accurate costumes, or
Yeah.
rather the near fetishization or veneration of anything leather. Oh, and I think there's the Crow too. God,
The Crow. Yep, the Crow.
everything in the late
Yeah,
90s that like caught on was like had leather clad characters in it, and so of
leather was
course
good.
Hollywood's gonna think like, oh, it's the leather that's popular. God, can you imagine if that was still going on when they made Spider-Man?
Kids love the kids love the leather.
Can you
I
imagine?
mean, it was like Daredevil was affected by the leather.
Yeah, Daredevil was, but can you imagine if Spider-Man was, if they were doing leather Spidey? That would have been so bad, man. I don't think they could. I don't think you could do Spidey anything
No,
other than comic accurate.
they would have saved the leather for Black Cat if it was gonna
Mm.
be in Spider-Man.
What?
Like you could,
That's
it
another
can
thing.
maybe kind of work
How have they done so many goddamn Spider movies and still not brought in Black Cat? That's
because
crazy to me.
Batman did Catwoman first.
You know what
I
I
feel
think it
like
is?
that's the only explanation. But
I think it's more that it's because of the whole like the feminist hate boner in Hollywood for anything that looks feminine and beautiful.
well, that wasn't the case back in the early 2000s.
Because
Like modern day, yeah.
yeah, but like nowadays, like absolutely, like because if you're doing a femme fatale, like immediately the feminists are just like heresy. Burn them at the stake. How dare you make a woman look
She
like
has
a
to be,
woman?
but if she does look anything like a woman, she has to be super anti-male, and she has to
Yeah.
constantly be beating the shit out of the main hero.
Oh yeah, and denigrating them at every possible opportunity. But yeah, no, that was it. Like, just the costumes. That was the one. That was the one major gripe I had with the first X-Men movie. Other than that, I thought it was just fantastic from start to finish. But then X-Men 2 came along, and then I was like so hyped because I'm just like, oh shit, yeah, because they, introduced Nightcrawler right at the beginning, and I was just like, yes, Nightcrawler, he's my favorite X-Man, and the movie's about him, woo! And then immediately after they introduce him, they bring back Wolverine, and I was just heartbroken. And I know I'm not the only person whose favorite X-Man is Nightcrawler, and that's the problem. Is like a lot of these studio bigwigs and stuff, and these Hollywood people, they don't seem to realize that everybody has a different X-Man that is their favorite. Everybody. Like, some people love Rogue, some people love Storm, some people love Cyclops, some people love Banshee, you know? And it's just like, by continuing to just make Wolverine the central focus of every single X-Men movie, you're constantly depriving all of those fans of what they want to see in an X-Men movie. And
I
that's why...
think that's I think that's why I like the first couple rebooted ones a little bit better, just because there was
No
no
Wolverine.
Wolverine,
Yeah.
like especially First Class.
Yeah, yeah. No, I really liked First Class, except for just Jennifer Lawrence. Yeah, she was like
Yeah,
really the only major down
was
note
the
for that.
trade-off. Yeah, no Wolverine, but you get Jennifer Lawrence, and she ruined that franchise too.
Yeah.
She kind
Yep.
of became the Wolverine of that one.
Which one?
Of the Jennifer Lawrence, she became the Wolverine of like the rebooted, like
No, that's
all the
exactly what
movies.
happened. That's what
Yeah,
I was saying earlier, where it was just like more and
yeah,
more
yeah. I forgot about that.
Jennifer Lawrence and less of the other characters, and I'm just like,
Thank God we never got a Mystique movie.
God, that would have been so bad.
Thank
But then
another piece of
you've got this whole story about William Stryker and his son is like, they're able to use his son to control mutants, brainwash them, and get them to do what they want. So Nightcrawler was this whole false flag thing to try and get them to round up the mutants. Great story. But then like they brought it back to like Wolverine again, and then they brought in Lady Deathstrike, who is basically just like female Sabretooth. So they had the whole like Wolverine Sabretooth fight again, but like
Yep, and
with tits.
not in her design, not nearly as interesting as her comic book design.
Definitely not. Not even remotely as interesting as her comic book counterpart. And not only that, but her character was also not even remotely interesting. Period, because she didn't
Yeah,
say anything. And who was that like? Oh, that was like Sabretooth in the first movie, who also barely said anything. Like they were the same character. It was just like a plug and play archetype that they just threw into the movie because they were just like, oh, well, the first movie and it was successful, so we have to do exactly the same as the first movie. So the final battle has to be a Wolverine versus other Wolverine type character, and instead of having this really cool fucking fight scene with Nightcrawler, where you that would have been a far more interesting fight scene. Like, keep Wolverine out of this movie entirely, focus on Nightcrawler, and have him fight Lady Deathstrike. That'd be interesting.
yeah. Like they set, like you're saying, like they set Nightcrawler up to be like this giant badass, but like all they use him at the end is to get into Cerebro.
Right.
Like that's
So
all they use him for.
his major arc was like teleporting through a wall.
Yeah, to be a door.
Ooh.
That was his character, to be a door.
He's a door. He's a doorknob. Not cool. Not cool, man. If you put him against Lady Deathstrike, that would be an interesting fight. Because first of all, immediately, there are stakes for him. He's not immortal like Wolverine is. And then she's also immortal. So then you have Wolverine doing the same thing as before with Sabretooth, where it's two guys stabbing each other who can't be killed by stabbing. It's not... There's no stakes in those fights.
How
Like,
did he defeat Lady
Deathstrike?
Deathstrike?
Uh,
Yeah,
he stabs her with a needle that injects adamantium and just like
that's right.
pumps her
That's
full of adamantium, and so it's like basically like pumping out of every orifice in her body. It was like coming out of her nose and mouth and eye holes and all that jazz.
do they ever kill someone in these movies by throwing them in like a tub of like liquid adamantium? Is that ever a thing? Cause that I have that like visual in my head for some reason.
No, but that would be pretty cool. Like, yeah, like, especially if it was something like that, because then they'd be, like, coming out, and it's, like, molten, so they're, like, burning, and they're just, like,
Yeah, and like
and then it
as they're
hardens, and they're just, like,
yeah,
that could be
yeah,
cool. Do that with Nightcrawler, you know? Like, uh, like, if you put Nightcrawler in that fight instead of Wolverine, the movie gets immediately better. Immediately better, because now
mm,
there's stakes. He can die. He doesn't have a healing factor. And so, whenever he gets hit by Lady Deathstrike, he bleeds. You know, he's that cut stays open, and he's hurt, and that's going to make the fight harder for him as he moves through it. You know, and but
yeah,
then you also have, like, instead of just like two people going, oh,
catfight.
I got my stabby fingers, I got my stabby fists, stabby fingers, stabby fists. You've got, oh,
Like,
I've got my stabby claw fingers, and then he's
my
like, oh,
claws
I
are
got,
better than your claws.
yeah, his whole, yeah, it's exactly. It's like, oh, which claws are more stabby? Instead, you have like like Nightcrawler. He's like, oh, I gotta stay away from those stabbing implements. Bam, I'm over here. Bam, 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 bam. But I also gotta take this lady out. I gotta figure out how to do that while avoiding her strikes. You know. But then he's gonna get hit every once in a while because she's got, like, you know, like the whole Wolverine nose where she can smell things. She's got heightened senses and stuff, and all his acrobatics and stuff, and all of his skills as a the incredible Nightcrawler, you know, from the Munich Flying Circus.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
no matter how much of that he's got, she's still got a little bit of a leg up on him because of her mutation. So, you know, he can walk
Yeah,
on walls. He's got prehensile tail. He's gonna get cut though. He's gonna get scars, and that's good. That's stakes, man. You're just like, you want to be like gripping the handrests at the theater. You want to be feeling emotions. You want to be thinking like, oh shit, is he gonna get out of this? Is he gonna actually be able to do this? Or is somebody gonna have to come in and save him at the last minute, or he's gonna pull through with some sort of ingenious move? Like,
yeah, he's the underdog in that fight, and when it's Wolverine, like Wolverine's gonna win.
right, right. And you don't really feel those stakes with him either because of the fact that he just can't die. She can't die either, even though she's pumped full of adamantium. If you rip all that adamantium out of her, she's just going to heal up and she'll be like, oh, all right, let's get back to round two, you know? So even with her, there's no stakes. So it's really putting a character into that fight that actually has stakes, that actually can die, that actually can, you know, get seriously injured, you know, if pressed hard enough. But they don't do that. And so, you know, going into that final fight scene for me, I felt nothing. Nothing at all.
Yeah, that's unfortunate too.
And one of the other things that really, really pissed me off about X-Men 2 was Storm. I liked this idea where they had Halle Berry, Storm, and what was it, Patrick Cummings, something Cummings, Nightcrawler. Like they kind of, like, you know, had a little bit of a thing going between them. But I mean, I didn't really like Halle. I don't like Halle Berry as an actress, frankly, and I don't like her as Storm. But I really hated her as Storm in X2 because of one thing that she did. She got rid of her accent. She got rid of the African accent.
I mean, it wasn't a very good accent.
It wasn't a
She
very
got,
good accent, but it was there. And
yeah.
then it wasn't. That doesn't just happen. People don't just like drop their accents all of a sudden, you know, in the span of like a year or two.
Xavier got annoyed by the accent, so he mind washed her to have an American accent.
Right. I don't like that, man. I like consistency. If you're gonna
I know.
start with the accent, maintain the accent. It just felt like lazy acting to me.
Or just cast a better actress.
Or cast a better actress, right? But I also don't like recasting either.
No, like from the beginning. Like they shouldn't have had Halle Berry from the beginning. Like,
No, I never really liked her as an actress. I think
okay,
the only movie I saw her in that I thought was like where I thought her performance was actually good, I think was the movie Swordfish, also with Hugh Jackman. But it's been a long time since I've seen that, so I really can't say for certain. But
bit of
also,
a tangent, so I apologize. What's better, her as Storm or her as Catwoman?
I mean, obviously her as Catwoman, but like, I mean, I think that was purposely made bad. So it's, I mean, is there really a comparison between the two, honestly? Also, welcome Larry Patrick Higgins of Niobe Comics to the stream. We're just ranting about the X-Men movies at the moment. We were going over like pitches and stuff and what makes a good pitch, and we were talking about like X-Men 2 and how we would kind of change things to improve that movie, because I had some issues with that movie in particular. But yeah, like that was my major thing, was like the loss of the accent, the zero stakes fight that was copy pasted from the first movie, like the just like the complete lack of more Nightcrawler, which I think everybody wanted going into that movie, because you saw anybody who saw that opening with Nightcrawler, like I think immediately like had to have been in the theater just like, hell yes, more of this please, this is badass, this is
That's
awesome.
possibly the biggest case of blue balls in superhero movie history.
I agree, and
That is lacking.
I appreciate the pun. Just want to say that
Unintentional, but thank you. Yeah.
I appreciate the puns, and I appreciate you for giving me the puns, man.
Yeah.
Nightcrawler, blue balls, well done,
Thanks.
well done. I'm a dad. I have to shout out the puns whenever they come along, and I have to explain the puns too, so that I make sure in full dad mode that the puns are as ineffective as possible by being overly explained to death.
Yep, and everyone needs to know that a pun was made.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, viewers, Theron made a pun.
I did. You see, because Nightcrawler is blue.
Nightcrawler, the character,
From
and
X-Men?
then it's blue balls because it's like, because we didn't get to see more Nightcrawler,
It's
but we
double
wanted
entendre.
more Nightcrawler. So they set us up for more Nightcrawler, but they didn't give it to us, giving us blue balls, much like Nightcrawler has.
Because Nightcrawler is blue and therefore has blue balls.
Therefore, his balls are blue. So there you go. That's how the pun works. You're welcome. And thank you. And you're welcome. But yeah, I mean, I can't really think of anything else in the movie that was like particularly egregious. I thought Stryker was fine. I thought he was an interesting villain, like making the villain kind of more just like human, and he's just like ashamed of his son for being, a mutant and wanting to fix him, and then in the process, kind of like using his son at the same time. Like he's quite the monster, that Stryker character.
Yeah.
But
that's another kind of trope that they keep on reusing in the Fox X-Men movies, is like a person in power who hates mutants and then has a mutant child. Like that was Angel in X-Men 3.
Right, and then in X-Men 1 they gave the
senator,
the senator mutants powers as well. Mind you, it was like unstable because it was like synthetic or something, like or brought about synthetically. So then he was like just melted into nothing and died, which is that was a gruesome scene. I appreciated that. But yeah, no, I mean it's a pretty central theme throughout X-Men's history. So I get that. Maybe a little overdone in the movies, like you're saying. Probably.
Yeah, like I'm saying, like it has to be there, like sometimes.
Yeah, but I would have definitely had like a couple of newcomers in X-Men, and maybe have like, I like the idea of kind of like splitting them up. Kind of having to like take this facility, with like sort of two teams, essentially.
Like gold and blue team.
Yeah, like they're doing like the gold and blue team kind of thing, and then you could have maybe like a few of the original team on one with like a couple of the newbies, and a few of the original team on the other, and a couple of newbies.
Yeah,
kind of get like a good
place to introduce Gambit, is have Gambit be on Rogue's team, and like
absolutely
you can kind of introduce a love triangle there between those two and Iceman.
Right. I mean, I think the key thing is sort of like like with improv acting. It's yes and. I think that's what a good superhero sequel does, is they don't do yes and we'll do more of yes. No, it's yes and then new thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you gotta like take what came before and say yes and yes. What's next? What's the next big thing? So it's like, okay, the first movie we've introduced Storm, or sorry, we've introduced Rogue. You know, she's got those powers, and it's like yes and what's something from the comics that we can do with Rogue? Well, there's Miss Marvel, right, where she like almost kills her and like ends up stealing her powers. Maybe you don't have to use Miss Marvel specifically, but you could use like another mutant character who has similar powers, and then like Rogue steals those powers, and like that's and ends up being like, oh, like if I grab someone with powers and like hold on to them until they're like almost dead, then I keep their powers permanently. Like, okay, that's a yes and. That's, hey, here's Rogue, let's build on her. Okay, here's Rogue, you know, part of her thing is she can't touch people without hurting them. Let's introduce that Gambit character who's got a big crush on Rogue. He wants to touch her real bad. He's willing to risk it. But you know,
He's gambling, if you will.
right, yeah. And that's the yes and. Okay, she can't touch people. Yes and here's this guy that not only really likes her, but she also really likes. So there's like that tension, right? You could take pretty much any other characters. Like, okay, we've established that there's other students in the school. Yes, and okay, those students are going to grow up, right? Some of them are going to maybe have powers that are, you know, good enough to make them part of the X-Men team. So maybe a couple of them graduate and they start kind of like inducting them into the team. They're training them to be a part of the team. You've got and they kind of did that a little bit with the second movie, but I don't think as effectively as they could have, because they had like
Yeah.
Iceman, because they had him as one of the younger students, right? They have Jubilee. I would have picked Jubilee out, right? And that
Was
was
Jubilee in those early movies?
she was in the Fox movies, but she was
Like
only like
the early ones.
I
Was she
think
kind of just like a background character?
yeah, she was always a background character. I think she
Okay.
only had like one line in the first movie, and like she had a line in the second movie, but I think it was cut. So
Mm.
it was like in the extra features. Um, but yeah, like take that and run with it a little bit more, and introduce a couple other characters that like are from the comics who were students and that ended up going on to the team. Um, yes and okay, so we've got like okay, we've got all these mutants in the school. Yes, and what about other mutants? What about the mutants that are not, you know, able to pass as human as easily? Okay, they do that a little bit with Nightcrawler, but yes, and what about the Morlocks? There's Storm. Yes, and Storm ends up being the leader of the Morlocks at some point. That's another good reason to introduce the Morlocks as a plot point. Yes,
Yeah.
and right. What else? Okay.
Sentinels.
Yeah,
I
Sentinels.
think that like the whole plot of X-Men 1 of, evil mutants kidnapping and,
and assassinating
infecting.
essentially.
Yeah, and then the Nightcrawler attack on the Capitol in the beginning, like that would have been two really good reasons to introduce the Sentinels.
Right. Yeah. Instead of waiting for Days of Future Past, and you could have had like those more classic depictions of the Sentinels initially, before doing those Days of Future Past crazy ones where they shapeshift and stuff, and
Yeah.
they're like the super adaptoid.
Neither of the designs in Days of Future Past I like.
Neither. No, I didn't either. I thought they were both pretty awful. They needed a lot of work. But yeah, like there's a whole lot of yes ands you could do. Introduce Bolivar Trask, like do that earlier, right? Like that he should have been like in the first movie, right? Like Bolivar Trask has always been like a huge character in the comics as far as like
Wasn't he? No, he was in the third movie. He was played by a black guy.
what? No, Bolivar Trask, that was Peter Dinklage played him
No,
in
but
Days.
in the third movie, Peter Dinklage was a recast.
Oh, was he? I
Yeah,
don't remember Bolivar Trask
he's
being in the third
on like
movie.
the same panel as Beast in the third movie. He's a black guy.
Oh, was it like a very small like cameo kind of
It's a
thing?
very small cameo kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. But like oh man, like there's so much you could do. Like if you brought in the Sentinels a little bit earlier too, there's so much you can yes and with those too. Master Mold, right? That's a big one. And then there was like a Sentinel Prime too. That was a pretty interesting design and like a pretty cool like storyline, I think.
Yeah, like that could be like the big bad of the movie, honestly.
Seriously, absolutely. And it's what about like Magneto and his band of merry men? Yes, and what about the other guys? What about the illusion guy? What's his name? Mastermind. That's one of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants we never really got to see in the first movie. So it's like, why not bring him in for a following movie when you bring back the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants? Like,
Scarlet Witch
let's
and Quicksilver.
Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. They were also a part of that. So it's just like, man, there are so many opportunities that anybody who's familiar with the comics could be like, oh my god, like here's so many different directions that we can go with this. Yes, and okay, so you've got the first X-Men movie where you've got like your kind of original cast. What about like the second X-Men movie? Bring in like the new guys, like similar to what they did in the comics, where the original one was like Angel, Beast, Iceman, Jean Grey, Cyclops. You had those original five, and then
Yeah, like
Mimic at some
basically
point.
do giant size X-Men #1, but
Right,
in the movie.
and then you had like the changeover to the new team where it was Storm, what was it, Rogue, Banshee, Colossus, Wolverine, and Nightcrawler. Right, you had that very different lineup, right? So you
Mhm.
could do that with like the different movies as well. It's like have that very different lineup. You have like very different interactions, very different, um, you know, uh, mixes of characters. You can kind of mix and match a little bit from the first original cast. Get like some new dynamics, like new. We want something new, and that was what bothered me the most about that was like it was just the same. It was the same thing again, the same thing as before, again, and I'm just like, no, we want new. Get
There's,
Angel.
there's there's no point to it if it's the same thing.
Exactly, and that's how I felt about X-Men 2. There's just no point to it because it's the same thing. And then unfortunately X-Men 3, like they do something different, but like they kind of like they try to adapt a beloved, story within the X-Men comics, but they do it in such a way that like nobody who is familiar with the story would like it.
And
Like,
then everyone not familiar with it is just kind of confused and off put.
right. But like if you're going to do the Dark Phoenix storyline, you got to do the Dark Phoenix storyline, the whole
The Dark
shebang.
Phoenix, it has to be almost a trilogy of movies by itself.
It really does, kind of. It really does, because there's a lot of ground to cover in that. You've got the Shi'ar Empire, so
Yep.
right away you've got to introduce aliens, like the existence of aliens first off, and then first contact with aliens, and then a whole friggin' galactic trip to the alien planets. You know,
Hmm.
then you've got that romance between the Shi'ar Empress and Lalandra, rather, and Professor X. It's like, okay, he's got a little thing for this alien princess. Oh, there's interesting. That's fun. That's a
I
lot
mean,
different.
who wouldn't though?
Absolutely. Right? But like,
If I had the chance, hell yeah.
but the point is that it's different and it's new and it's a direction you could take things like this. It does have everything that we want as X-Men comic fans and as movie fans. Like, the movie fans don't want the same thing over and over again either. They want to see new things. Like,
Yeah.
you know they don't know it yet, but they do. Your conscious brain doesn't know it, but your subconscious one does. you know like I loved X-Men 2 when it first came out, but my subconscious mind was like, something's not right. It's just not hitting like it should. And then, the whole Phoenix thing with the third one where they kill off Cyclops. What
Hmm.
a stupid move.
Well,
Whoa.
he was gonna be busy filming the worst Superman movie. Well, one of the worst Superman movies.
Yeah, but like just because you have like a scheduling conflict doesn't mean you
I know.
just
I
kill
know.
off the primary character who's at the heart of the storyline you're adapting.
The person who's supposed to be the main character, kind of.
Right. the one who's supposed to finally like pull the trigger on the woman he loves, and it's like that's the story right there. It's between him and her. You know, they set it up. They built it up between two movies, and they just like canceled it out, and then replaced him with Wolverine. And once again, it's the Wolverine movie with all the rest of the X-Men as side characters.
Hmm. Like every X-Men movie up till First Class was a Wolverine movie.
Yeah, every
Whether or
X-Men
not,
movie.
like, yeah, it's insane.
And it's just like at some point, and then not only that, he also had two spin-off movies about him on top of that. So there was 5 Wolverine movies, 0 X-Men movies. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
5 Wolverine movies, and then we finally got, actually no, 6 Wolverine movies, because then he comes back for Days of Future Past to be the main character again. If I was doing Days of Future Past, like, I wouldn't have Wolverine be the one going back. I would have
Kitty
someone
Pryde.
else. I would have Kitty Pryde. Yes. I mean, you had Ellen Page. Ellen Page was Kitty Pryde. They had her cast. Instead, she was just.
And she
Instead,
was
she
in
was
the
just
movie.
like. She was in the movie. So it's like, instead of having her be the vessel for sending Wolverine's consciousness back, just send Kitty Pryde back. Like, do it. If you're going to adapt a story, adapt a story. Don't change it. Don't switch characters out. Don't be a pussy. Adapt the story
Like there's
as it
things
is.
legally you might have to do
Some,
just for like character rights, but try to keep the essence of
but
the story as faithful as possible.
but they had the character. She's in the movie.
Yeah,
They
I know.
could have done it. There was nothing stopping them. I think the only reason they didn't use her was because they were just like, oh, we need Wolverine to do it because he's the most popular X-Men character. It's
Well, you can still
decisions being made by committee, by number crunchers, and not by creatives.
you know it'd be more interesting is having Kitty Pryde go back in time and having to convince a Wolverine who was just mind wiped to join in on the fight.
Absolutely.
That
That's
would
an
be
interesting
way more
direction.
interesting.
That's an interesting direction you could take, because then Wolverine is still in it. You still have Hugh Jackman. You still have that most popular X-Men character by the numbers for the number crunchers and the producers who only look at the numbers and they don't actually think about anything creative in their entire lives because they aren't creative people. And you can appease them, but then you still have Kitty Pryde as the main character, and that's what's important, I think. Like, she can be. I mean, that's a great idea. You have Kitty Pryde go back, and she's like, "Here's something I got to stop." I've gotten a concept, an idea of like where some of these other mutants are that can help me accomplish this goal. To fix the future. So it's like it could be like a whole like rounding up of a team thing. And she's the leader, but she's young and inexperienced at the same time, but she's the only one who can do it. That's a more interesting movie to me.
Mm. In the comics, did they send their consciousness back, or was it like their physical form?
I think I think it was her physical form.
Okay, because
Like
if we keep the conscious thing, then yeah, we might not be able to do Kitty Pryde because
I
it was before she was born. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like a straight like time travel thing and not like a consciousness thing. I think they changed that so that they can have her be like the sort of like
which I don't understand how her powers correlate with that necessarily.
well,
To be
I don't
honest
think
with
they
you.
even explained it in the movie.
It's just yeah, I can walk through walls, therefore I can walk your consciousness through
Yeah,
time.
but we already had Bishop. Like, Bishop exists, so we know time travel exists, right? So we know time travel has been done because he did it. Because Bishop wouldn't be there without time travel, because Bishop is from the future.
Well, I think that's the future that he's from. Is what they're trying to say. I don't think he's from the Age of Apocalypse timeline anymore. I think he's from the Days of Future Past.
Oh,
Future.
that's lame. That's lame.
I think that's what they're trying to get at.
But also, like, man, it's a shame that they didn't use Bishop's original look, because I love his original look.
With like the white and like the yellow bandana. Yeah.
Yeah, like the scarf, like the red scarf and like the yellow stripes and stuff. Like it was a cool look, man. Like
Oh yeah.
the Jerry curls too. Like keep the Jerry curls, man.
What does
Just
he even
go.
look like? It's just
He just had like a
man with the
black.
costume design. It's always just so bland.
Yeah, it was just like a black cloak. At least they kept the M on his face, but like, geez, like what? It's hard to know like what you can expect to make it through to the actual films these days. You know, like with
Like
the X-Men stuff. I don't know. Like it's the X-Men Fox stuff in particular. Like they were just so steadfast and like dead set against ever using their costumes. Like even to this day, like we're just
yeah,
finally getting Hugh Jackman into a costume like
that
even
looks
remotely
great.
resembling Wolverine from the comics. You know, it's
I
still kind of leather looking, but like, hey, it's got the right colors at least. You
Yeah,
know,
so I'm not the biggest fan of that version of the costume that they went with, the astonishing X-Men costume. I'm not the biggest fan of that particular look. But it's something. I
I do
would have
like the
preferred the brown and orange.
I do like the exposed arms though. I think I would much prefer the exposed arms because you want to get like some muscles. You know, you want to get some of that
Yeah,
going. And
he's also pushing 60.
yeah, but he's doing good for pushing
Yeah, he's still
60.
good, but this way he doesn't have to constantly be looking good.
Right. Yeah, no, I know. Like he's been doing this role for like 23 years.
Yeah,
Can you believe that?
he's probably
That
so
is
tired.
I think Hugh Jackman is probably the most dedicated actor I think to ever exist.
He has been Wolverine as long as I've been alive.
Yeah. Yeah, he has. That's crazy. Like how like and he's too tall for the role.
He's way too tall for the role.
He's like 6'2". Wolverine is like 5'1".
Could you imagine if they did like Lord of the Rings like camera tricks to like make him look short?
I don't think it would work because I think it would just end up making him look like a hobbit.
Yeah, it'd be
Because
funny though.
like proportion wise, like he looks tall too.
Yeah,
Like you'd have to
you'd be
like
you'd look way too skinny. Like
yeah,
you'd need like a stocky guy.
he would look like a dwarf or a hobbit. He would look like a hobbit if they did that.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I don't think
I
it
think
would
it'd be
work.
I think it'd be funny.
You know,
I'd laugh.
okay, so okay, speaking of like Fox X-Men, let's say like they continue on with the Fox X-Men universe, right?
Mm.
What are some characters that you personally would love to have seen uh enter into the Fox X-Men universe?
An Exiles TV show, just all of those characters.
Okay. I mean like just like characters that would come into like the movies, let's say.
Okay.
Like not like a pitch for like a new project or anything like that, but just like whether it be a cameo, whether it be like a movie starring said characters, you know, like who would you want to see join the original like Fox X-Men movie universe?
Someone who wasn't in it at all.
Yeah, like someone who has not been in it at all, that has not been introduced in the Fox X-Men movie universe at all
Mm.
from the comics.
I'm not that familiar with X Men. I'm not gonna lie to you. You do
Oh,
yours. You do yours, and I'll come up with something.
I would want to see Puck and Alpha Flight. I,
Okay.
I I particularly have always liked Puck. It was one of the reasons why I really did not like the casting of uh shit. What was his name again? Uh, I had these all like rolling off my tongue like constantly. In Days of Future Past, Bolivar Trask. That's why I didn't like.
Oh, you wanted Peter Dinklage to be Puck?
I wanted Peter Dinklage to be Puck because he's a really good actor, and I always loved Puck as a character. And I thought like if you were gonna do Puck in a live action movie, like an actual X-Men movie, you would need to get an actor who had serious acting chops to like pull it off and make it work
Okay.
because he's such a ridiculous character. First off, he is actually like a midget, right? He's a, he's
Hmm.
a he's a hairy, curmudgeonly Canadian midget, and his power is basically like he like, and this is why you call him Puck, because like he like spins around like crazy doing cartwheels, bouncing off the walls like a hockey puck. You know, like someone hit a slap shot with this midget-sized hockey puck. He's just going bing, 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 bing around the place. Could be really fun visually. Could make for some really interesting, really fun, funny uh, fight scenes, you know? And then you add on top of that somebody who can like act their ass off like Dinklage, and like I think you've got a recipe for success, you know? And then the fact that Alpha Flight is a Canadian team, well, there you go. Not only did you have like you know a great actor playing a very interesting character, but then you've got a team of characters on top of that, you know, and a brand new setting. Like there have not been any superhero movies set in Canada, so it's like doing Alpha Flight. That's pretty good. You've got Sasquatch. You've got that shaman lady. I mean, I have the first issue of Alpha Flight, but it's been a long time since I've read it. I can't remember all of their names, but Puck was always the one that stood out to me because he was always the most fun, interesting character of the bunch, and I've always liked Puck. And when I saw Peter Dinklage, you know, in Game of Thrones for the first time, I was like, dude, that guy would make a great Puck. Because like you know, like Peter Dinklage's character in that Tyrion Lannister, he's like always like drinking and like schmoozing with the ladies. I'm just like, dude, that's Puck. That's Puck. When he's
him.
when he's not bouncing off the wall fighting bad guys and stuff, like that's
Would
that's
you
him.
would you make him get buff?
Oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, because Puck is like he's a midget, but he's got some
What if we
muscle
get the
on him.
jackass little person?
I don't know him all that well, and I don't know if he can act. I mean, that's the thing for me is like I want someone who can act,
He
man.
has to act. Yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right.
So so
I'm just thinking he's already kind of stocky.
so when you're saying Exiles, are you thinking like would you do like an Exiles movie?
Oh, it would be a TV show. It'd have to be a TV show.
Yeah. No, I think so too. I think it would have to be a TV show, but that would be a tough one to do because if you're doing like a multiverse kind of spanning, you know, X-Men style superhero team, like I don't think any of the main characters from the Exiles was in any of the movies except for maybe the Indian guy. I think he was in Days of Future Past. So he would be
Yeah.
the only one that you would need to kind of like join the main cast. The rest you could get like newbies, right? Like Morph, Blink. What was the Asian girl's name again? I can't remember.
It's been
Firestar, something
It
like
might
that.
be that.
I think
It's been a minute. I haven't gotten too far into it, and it's been a minute since I read that first volume.
yeah. And then there's Nocturne. Um, so
That
those
was
are like the main
yeah.
guys there. Uh,
But
but then
if
like
it's a
doing the
singular,
multiverse thing, like you'd have to bring back a lot of the other cast from the other X-Men movies in some of those stories. Otherwise, you'd have to like recast, and then like that is always cheap to me. Like if
well, if
especially
it's
if
a
you're
multiverse, if it's not, if it's going to like alternate, not like the main Fox universe, you can kind of get away with it a little bit easier that way.
I mean, you know, you could get away with it, but it's not going to hit the same. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, yeah.
If we're talking singular characters that I would bring in, it'd be Sauron, the guy that
Oh,
turns it, guy that turns into this pterodactyl,
yeah. Oh man,
or
no,
the
I love Sauron. I've always loved that character. I
I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs.
like I've always liked him just for the fact that he is like a dinosaur man. I'm just like, dude, like why the hell not? Like a dude who's just like
Yeah,
a
he's
human
fun.
pterodactyl. Like just that, yeah, go for it. That's awesome.
He's a fun character. Also, the Brood would be cool.
The Brood would be an interesting one. I think that would have to be like a two-parter at the least. Because don't they go to space in the Brood one as well?
I don't know. I just know that they're like a horror kind of thing.
Well, they're
Interesting.
aliens. They're alien
Yeah,
parasites. They're kind
it's
of
kind of like the xenomorph.
they're very directly based off of the xenomorphs. But I feel like you'd have to do the Dark Phoenix with the Shi'ar Empire first to establish like the
Established, yes.
yeah, like
Ooh,
establish
or
the
the
space.
Starjammers. I would do the
Starjammers.
Starjammers.
Starjam,
Guardian.
dude. If Fox was smart, Starjammers could have been their Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, like they lost Star Wars, and
Yeah,
so Disney has both Star Wars and Guardians. They're like, fuck, we need a space opera.
yeah.
Let's do
Like
our X-Men guys.
Starjammers could have been their Guardians of the Galaxy if they were smart and they actually like really wanted to like make use of the IP that they had spent money on attaining. Like
That's how you introduce space. That's how you introduce like the Shi'ar and the Brood into the X-Men universe is by doing a Starjammers movie because
yeah.
the Captain he's Cyclops' dad, right?
Well, I'm pretty sure the Starjammers were a big part of the Dark Phoenix saga, weren't they?
I mean, yeah,
Like,
you can do
isn't that how they first get into space? It's been in like 2 decades since I've read
be real with you.
Dark Phoenix.
I've never read it.
I think I've only read like key issues in it as well, because like back in the day, like we got what comics we could get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you pick up whatever X-Men comics you can get, whether you get something that's going to be in any kind of order is going to be up in the air. So
Yeah.
what we did is we would get whatever comics we could, and then we would get Wizard magazine, and then we would kind of like read everything that happens in there to kind of like fill in all the gaps.
Like it's a lot easier now with like torrenting and all that, but
Oh
I
yeah,
always
and the
feel
internet.
I feel so wrong doing that.
Yeah, and then you've got like YouTube channels that will just like go over the storylines like beat by beat and like
Yeah.
get you up to date with like no time at all, like 10-15 minutes. It's just like, oh, okay, I know the entire story for the Dark Phoenix saga.
But yeah, like honestly, I would just do a standalone Starjammers movie to like set up the events and then go into the Phoenix Saga.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's not a bad idea. Like you do Starjammers, right? And you don't even allude to the fact that it's connected to the X-Men, right? You just make this cool sci-fi movie with this band of colorful characters similar to like, like a Guardians of the Galaxy, Starjammers. But then you also are doing like the X-Men leading to leading up to the Dark Phoenix saga. And then when you do the Dark Phoenix saga, you bring in the Starjammers and then people are like, "Oh shit, from that other movie?" Like the people who don't know about the Starjammers and don't know about comic books won't have a clue. But then they'll be like, "Oh shit, they're crossing over the Starjammers with the X-Men? That's crazy." And then they
Like
reveal that
that's kind of what they did in Infinity War, but I think that would have been their best option.
Yeah, exactly. But then like you bring him in and they're just like, "Oh shit, he's like Scott Summers' dad is the captain of the Starjammers. We didn't know that." Because like maybe in the Starjammers movie they never actually say his last name. They only ever use his Starjammers moniker, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how I would have done it, like because then you have that like surprise crossover as well, and like people are like, oh shit, I didn't even know these were connected, right? I didn't even know these were part of the same universe. Like that would have been, I mean that's boy, they were stupid to
I'm
not utilize
honestly
that.
surprised they didn't do it because, like I said, they lost Star Wars and Marvel released Guardians, and I think about the same year.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't even know about the Guardians of the Galaxy until they announced the movie. I had to do some
And
research to find out about them, and I was just like, what? Like, how
I
did I
had
not know
some.
about these guys? Like, I knew
I
about
had
Rocket Raccoon, and I knew about Groot, and I knew about Gamora, and I knew about Drax, and I knew about
like
a lot of
so
these
that
characters
team.
from other stuff, but I had no idea about the Guardians of the Galaxy.
That team was actually the recent Guardians of the Galaxy. Like that team was only around for like less than 5 years before that movie came out. Because I have
Oh
some
yeah,
back issues from the '90s one where it takes place in like the future,
yeah,
and that's where you got like your Yondu's and the character that Sylvester Stallone plays. Like that's all set in the future. Like
yeah.
basically, like that Sylvester Stallone team was like the original comic book lineup of the Guardians.
Right, right, yeah, the original Guardians, and then they rebooted it with like the Star Lord and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
like, but the funny thing is like I knew about all those characters minus Star Lord from things like the Infinity Watch, like the Infinity Gauntlet and stuff like that. That whole
Yeah.
thing, like
Old school
those
carbon plasma.
characters were a big part of it. Like Drax the Destroyer was a big part of it. Gamora was a big part of it. There was Adam Warlock, and I don't remember what I knew Rocket Raccoon and Groot from, but I've known about Rocket Raccoon and Groot for a long time. I think I probably read about them, like I said, like in like a Wizard magazine or something like that.
Yeah.
But because like yeah, like I had a lot of comics, but they were like so many gaps because like you just got what you could get, right?
Mhm.
That like I had to fill in so many of those gaps just like reading Wizard magazine, you know. Like, thank God for Wizard magazine back in the 90s, man, because I would have had no idea what was going on. Like I would have just been
Yeah.
like, all right, that was a cool issue of like the middle of some like 8-part saga that like I have no other issues of, and I have no ways of getting them. So,
Yeah, because if like your comic book shop doesn't have them, then you're not reading
yeah. All right. Well, anyway, I think we should probably call it a night. We've long since lost any viewers, and we've covered pretty much everything that we wanted to talk about in
them. I think
although in a
so.
much more meandering way than I'd initially intended,
It's a
admittedly.
throwback stream. It's a throwback stream.
Yeah, it's a bit of a throwback stream. But yeah, man, like it's so hard to talk about this stuff without going into so many tangents because there is so many tangents. There is so many things to talk about that it's just like you could spend days and days discussing these original, comic book movies because there's just endless content about them. I mean, that's not even taking into consideration any of the behind the scenes dramas that, are
Yeah.
involved in a lot of their creation, cancellations, and in some cases uh, potentially damning legal issues as well. It's like it's a whole thing. And you got 23 years of this stuff. It started in 2000, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of content to cover.
Every fifth stream, we should do one of these deep dives on like, so like this was like our Fox X-Men stream. We should do like the Blade movies. We
Oh,
should do like
you know,
Daredevil and Elektra. We should do Ghost Riders. We should do the Punishers. Like each like their individual streams. Like we should do like a really deep dive on like each of like
I
the
think we should
building blocks of modern superhero movies.
I think we should do a series of deep dives into the Fox movies because I think we should actually like get into like the nitty gritty, like dedicate some time to rewatching them, right? And then like really discuss them in depth. And if we're
Okay.
gonna do the Blade movies, I gotta bring in my friend Matt, drawn by Bon on Twitter, because me and him like we went to college together, and boy, I tell you, we have had a great many discussions about Blade.
I
Like,
have heard about your guys' discussions on what
yeah.
you would do to change Blade 3, and I do want to hear that. So we'll
Oh
have to
man,
do that.
I would love to recreate that discussion on stream with him because like we watched Blade 3 together one night and we were just like up till 6 in the morning brainstorming how we could fix that movie because it was a mess. That movie was broken, dude. It was all wrong, but it had the elements. It had all the elements necessary to make a great movie. It was just all done the wrong way. Like David Goyer had no fucking clue what he was doing. He was a hack as a director. I mean, he's a bit of a hack as a writer, but like he manages to get
Yes,
the job done for the most
the,
part.
when he's just a writer, the directors usually kind of say the scripts.
Yeah, yeah. I think a good director can save a mediocre script, and David Goyer is known for making mediocre scripts, and so you need a good director attached to David Goyer stuff. Otherwise, like it's not going to be that good. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously from his attempt at directing, his first. I mean, how do you give him Blade 3 as his directorial debut? Why would you do that?
Man.
Why? For God's
Especially
sake!
after two really good movies, too.
Two really good, like really experienced directors, and then you give the third
Fucking
movie the
following
cul
up
the
Guillermo del Toro.
yeah, you give the culmination of your trilogy to a first time director. What is wrong with you,
Bro.
bro? dude, why would you do that? I mean, and
It's
not only that
it's
too,
embarrassing.
but like one of the things I really like about the bones of Blade 3 is that it sets up a really good Blade 4 and potentially yeah, like a Blade 5 even. Like you oh, we got to get into this later, but like just think about it this way, like at the end of Blade 3, like all the vampires are gone. Like they've released this virus into the air that just immediately like kills all the vampires essentially. The Daystar virus. And I'm just like that's an excellent idea because then you go into Blade 4, Blade has like this existential crisis essentially. His entire life has been about killing vampires. Now there's no vampires to kill. What does he do? That's the question to ask on another stream.
I remember, I think it was for Blade 2. The original idea was for Morbius to be the bad guy.
See, I would not have Morbius be the bad guy in Blade 2. I remember I saw the deleted scene for that, but I would save Morbius for Blade 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blade 5. And me and Matt went into this in great detail and like how we would like do all this stuff, but like dude, first off, it has to be Wesley Snipes. Like
Oh,
Wesley Snipes
yeah.
is Blade, right? And unfortunately it would have had to been done like quite a while ago. But I mean, I feel like you could potentially do it still today with Wesley Snipes with like a lot of the de-aging technology and like you know uh like special effects that are available now. Like you could bring
Now, since
Wesley Snipes back.
since he's, isn't he half vampire? Could you kind of fudge it so like he kind of ages?
Yeah, like a little bit. Like I wouldn't age him all the way back to like Blade, Blade 1, 2, 3 days. Like maybe like age him back like, you know, 10 years or so. Like have it so that like he ages like half, right?
Half speed. Okay.
So he ages slower than normal. And I think that is the case too. Because like I think they set that up in the first movie where Whistler finds him and he's like just a boy, but like Whistler is also like pretty young himself. And then like, Whistler's like old as balls in Blade 1, and then Blade's like, like mid-20s looking.
That's another thing. Whistler dies like 3 times in those movies.
Yeah, that was a problem as well. That was a problem. Well, he died in the first movie, and then they brought him back in the second movie, and then I think they finally kill him in the third movie, like for good. Like they
Okay,
blow
that's
him
right.
up. Yeah.
That's
So
funny.
he dies twice. Like one time he gets turned into a vampire, and they pretend that he died. But yeah, I think it was a mistake to bring him back. I think it would have been far better to just like keep him dead after the first movie. Like just
Yeah.
have that sense of permanence, you know. And so, but it also like diminishes the impact of that scene in the first movie by bringing him back because like that scene, that death scene, like that was a really great emotionally impactful scene. He is like was his father figure for a long time, and as stoic as Blade is, like you see that, as stoic as he is, like you see that emotion come up out of him, and man, Snipes, great performance in that too. God,
Hmm.
underrated actor, man. Like, dude,
He really is.
they don't give him enough props. He's so good. Like, he basically just reinvented what cool is with the movie Blade. Like,
Honestly.
like that was Wesley Snipes, man. Like he was just like, you know what? I'm gonna redefine what cool is, and he did, man. Like, dude, when I was a kid, I wanted to be Blade. Like, you don't
Oh,
even
yeah.
know. I thought he was the coolest son of a bitch to ever hit the silver screen. I was right. He is.
He really is. Like
I wasn't wrong.
I watch those movies all the time. I had a Blade action figure. Like all about that. Jeez. But yeah,
All right.
I think on weeks where we don't have a whole lot of news and no major updates, we should do a deep dive on some of these movies. I think that would be a good
Yeah, definitely. I think we should definitely bring in. I think we should start with Blade. Actually, let's start with what launched Marvel movies. Let's start with what launched comic book movies as a viable,
into the
entertainment source.
modern era. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because Blade was the one that started it all. Some people like to argue other things, but no, it was Blade. Blade started it. Everything you see now with comic book movies would not exist without Blade, without Wesley Snipes redefining what cool is. Saying, like, hey, you know what? I'm redefining what cool is, but also that redefinition of cool, that comes from comic books, man.
Yeah.
There's money in these books. So, yeah, I think we should start with Blade on that. We'll get Matt in on this. See if any of the other SWC team wants to, pitch in on the deep dive on Blade. But yeah, I think that should be the first one we start with. Let's go through it in chronological order. Like build it, like work our way up, and then we won't touch Marvel MCU Phase 4. We won't ever even touch on that. Like that's just
Unless we're talking about Guardians, because it's the only good one.
yeah, that's true. Guardians is well, it's not the only good one. I thought the Spider-Man movie was pretty good, but like it's not as
wasn't
good as
nearly
Guardians. It,
yeah.
it wasn't nearly as good as Guardians. A lot of people online are saying like it's which one was that? Far From Home, or was that
No Way
No
Home.
Way Home? No Way Home. Yeah, it was like, oh, No Way Home was the best thing to come out of like MCU, in a long time. I'm just like, no,
It
man,
wasn't.
it wasn't. It
It
it, it,
wasn't.
it was like a distant second to Guardians 3. Like, dude,
And
that
then Doctor Strange was a even more distant third.
yeah, a very distant third because of that whole like a bee. I
What?
can't get it. No, seriously, like that's like a bee. Like a bee is what like launches that whole movie. Not joking, man. It's
In Doctor Strange, I don't remember that. I've seen
in
Doctor Strange.
multiverse of madness, like that
Yeah,
America Chavez, like her origin story is she saw a bee and she got scared by the bee
that's
and
right. Oh my god.
so
Oh my god. Forgot
so
about that.
stupid, so stupid, man. Oh my god. I bet you if they just like let Raimi like off leash, that movie would have been like a million times better.
Dude, it would have been so good. It would have been a cosmic Evil Dead movie.
Right? Absolutely. That's what I want to see. Give me Sam Raimi on Cosmic Evil Dead. Hell yes. All right, let's call it a night, man.
Oh yeah.
That was fun talk. It
Oh
was
yeah.
a little bit rambly, a little bit all over the place, but it was a good talk, man. I liked it. It
I
was
think
fun.
I think we need a rambly hangout stream once in a while. It can't all be structured.
Every once in a while, I just want to talk about nerd shit and get nerdy with it, right?
Yeah, I'm always
Yeah.
down for that.
All right. Well, if anybody is watching this live stream after the fact, I'm Josh the Amazing Animator. You can find me on Twitter at Josh Animator. Theron,
I am Theron Kurth. You can find me at Twitter at the one and only Ron.
yeah. Be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/ScienceWizardComics. And be sure to check out Science Wizard Comics on Twitter at Science Comics. And please keep an eye out for our upcoming comic, Pineapple Pizza Man, issue 1, which is going to be a 46-page spectacular first issue. You're going to love it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I hope to see you reading it someday. I love you so much. I love you. I love
We
you.
love you. We love you.
We love you. Everyone.
We all love you. Except for you.
Except you. Fuck you. No,
Yeah.
not that guy. Not you. You.
No, the one on the left. Not a fan of you.
Yeah, fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. You're cool. Fuck you. You know what I'm quoting. All right. Take it easy, everybody. Have a good night.